the Sorcerer of the Celestial Dragon line. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251, Guardian Ring. Fusion completed. As the cold mechanical sound rang out, Allen slowly breathed a sigh of relief. The divinity extracted from Soren's soul carries a lot of negative information. Without a mechanized mind, Allen has a high chance of falling in the process of integrating divinity. He waved his hand to disperse the energy field around him. The divinity extracted this time was similar to the last time's cannibal tree. Allen had already integrated 5 points of divinity, which was almost the same as the divinity contained in a demigod. Protect from evil. Looking at the dense negative energy in the laboratory in front of him, Allen frowned and waved his hand to disperse it with a spiritual light. The residual soul of Soren, which had lost its divinity, could no longer make any waves. At this time, it was on the verge of dissipation. He waved his hand to send out a spiritual light to disperse it. A faint murmur sounded, and then it drifted away with the wind and disappeared without a trace. After extracting 2 points of divinity at a time, Allen was now in a state of being full. A trace of golden light could be seen around his body with the naked eye. Next, he needed to stay in the wizard tower honestly to digest the divinity. The supreme ring without a soul is now just an ordinary magic item. Its effect is to enhance the effect of spells. The material used is mithril and gold, as well as some other precious materials. As long as Allen re-engraves the runes on it, it will be a high-level magic item. If you invest some divinity, it will even become a legendary creation. Taking out some arcane dust and astral sand, Allen is ready to re-enchant the ring. After losing its soul, the ring is no longer as indestructible as before. Allen snapped his fingers, and an elemental fire jumped out. He threw the ring into the flame. Soon, the ring began to melt slowly. The ring is very small, so there are not many runes engraved. It took Allen a few hours to successfully engrave the runes for the ring. With the completion of the last rune, the appearance of the supreme ring, which was originally dark gold, changed drastically. The ring has turned golden yellow, and there is a circle of silver patterns on the edge. If you look closely, you will find that those patterns are actually dense rune arrays. Because of the limited space, this ring does not have too many spells attached to it. Item: Allen's Guardian Ring. Material: fine gold, mithril, astral sand. Level: 3rd level magic item. Wisdom +3, perception +3. Additional effects: calm, spell enhancement, breath recovery, concentration. Additional spells: malicious transformation, 3 times a day, advanced slowness, 3 times a day. Special effect: false life. Looking at the completed ring, Allen nodded with satisfaction. This ring is positioned as an auxiliary, so the spells added are all control effects. The malicious transformation 3 times a day can turn the enemy into various small animals, and the advanced slowness can greatly reduce the speed of all enemies in the range of 200 square meters. The false life will always be in an activated state, which will greatly enhance Allen's survivability. Wearing the ring on my hand, it feels good. I went to see the dragon bone that was still soaking, and found that it would take a lot of time to completely deal with it. Allen left the laboratory directly. After asking Bis to prepare a delicious meal, Allen came to the meditation room, where he would spend this period of time. The divinity in the body is still slowly merging, and the spells of the 3rd level wizard also need to be learned. Time passed little by little in the closed door study. When Allen appeared in the wizard tower again, 2 months had passed. There was no golden light around Allen's body when he appeared again. All the divine brilliance was restrained. Only a trace of golden light occasionally flashed in the depths of his dark eyes. He checked the operation of the wizard tower. The little maid was picking magic plants in the botanical garden. Alex had grown up a lot. As for Douglas, he had also completed the blood fusion, but now it seemed that he had regressed to the dragon stage, which showed that his potential had increased. The gold-eating beasts still lived in the underground mining area, but now their number had exceeded 30, and 1/3 of the metal in the wizard tower needed them to provide. After the rune steel and other materials reached a certain amount, Allen was ready to build steel golems. In the Arcane Empire, steel golems were the main force of the wizard tower. As for rock golems, most of them would be assigned to mines and logistics. The iron golem core is a big spender. Each iron golem requires more than 1 ton of rune steel. A small team needs 12 iron golems. The cost of such a large amount of rune steel is an astronomical figure. Fortunately, Allen got a lot of golden iron. Otherwise, if you want to build an iron golem core, you will probably go bankrupt after a few teams. Moreover, Allen can't make a few iron golems, even if he works himself to death. If you want to build iron golems on a large scale, you need to build a golem factory. There will be more than 1 golem factory in each complete floating city. These factories will quickly produce soldiers for the floating city. Each floating city is equivalent to a small country. It can live in the floating city for thousands of years. After staying in the Southeast Sea for 3 months, Allen returned to the academy again. The academy's constraints on high-level wizards are already very low. Allen settled the task rewards in the task hall, spent a lot of magic stones, and Allen received a lot of standard spare parts. Scan directly with the chip, keep those that meet the standards, and return those that do not meet the requirements for rework. Soon, with the help of the chip, several unqualified products were picked out and given to the staff of the mission hall. They will return these things, wave their hands to collect the remaining parts, and then issue the mission again. After paying the deposit, they left the mission hall. On the way back, Allen met Lilith, who was collecting magic plants barefoot. The magic peppers planted here are very useful. They are an important condiment in the subject of magic cooking, and are also auxiliary materials for blood purification potions and physical strengthening potions. After using the blood purification potion, the whole body will have a feeling of burning inside and outside, which can remove impurities in the body. It is a good magic potion, and is in great demand. However, this magic pepper must not be used without processing. It is said that the first wizard who discovered this pepper tried it, and his throat was directly damaged, and he could not make a sound. His lips were swollen and deformed, and his whole body was like being in magma. The effect will last for a month, and only ice spirit grass or water spirit lotus seeds can eliminate it. This magical pepper can also be used to make biochemical weapons. It is said that wizards who are attacked will be in excruciating pain. Allen, long time no see. Lilith's eyes lit up when she saw Allen, and she put down the tools in her hands. You have advanced. She was stunned when she sensed the elemental fluctuations in Allen's body, and then smiled and congratulated. Chapter 252 Allen's Apprentice. Congratulations, you have also been promoted. Lilith's appearance has not changed much. She still looks like a girl. The biggest change is her ears. She exudes a light natural breath. Her figure has not grown taller, and she even looks petite. But if you underestimate her, you will definitely have an unforgettable lesson. Although fairies look slender, their physique is no worse than that of knights of the same level. Lilith, who has the blood of fairies, now has a physical fitness comparable to that of a great knight. I exchanged resources for a bottle of natural blessing potion, and then opened the element channel with the help of my mentor. Fortunately, I successfully promoted. Natural blessing potion is one of the few potions that ordinary people can use in the wizard continent. This potion uses many plants, and some life spring water needs to be added, so its radioactivity is very low. Life spring water is a strange spring water in nature. It appears in many night novels. It is said that drinking this spring water can make people immortal and rejuvenate the pharaoh. The fountain of life does have the effect of prolonging life, but it is only effective when used for the first time, and can extend life by about 20 years. However, its main function is to activate the potential blood power in the body and increase the degree of blood fusion. This potion also has great limitations. It is only effective when used for the first time. Is the demand for magic peppers in the academy very high now? Allen asked curiously, looking at the large number of magic peppers planted here. Yes. Lilith nodded and said, the wizarding world has not been very peaceful recently. The instructor said that many demons, half-demons, and fallen people have appeared, and various combat supplies are consumed very quickly. The biochemical weapons made from magic peppers are very effective against half-demons and fallen people, and they are also effective against intermediate demons. It seems that the frequency of demons appearing is increasing. Allen muttered in his heart that he has less and less time left. The demons have begun to attack other planes, so Tibus's situation is likely not optimistic. I don't know if the elemental furnace of Tibus world has been completed. If there is no miser energy core, then load a few more elemental furnaces. Although the consumption is a bit high, it can raise the floating city and open the super energy particle orbital cannon. Tibus can completely drive out those abyss locusts. After saying goodbye to Lilith, Allen returned to his residence in the ecological park. When he came here, Allen thought he had gone to the wrong place. After observing again, it was indeed his residence. Allen walked into the yard and saw all kinds of beautiful flowers all over the yard. The 3 mushroom houses were decorated with various flowers and plants. It looked like a little girl's residence. At this time, a little girl of 15 or 16 years old came out in a grey wizard robe. She looked up and saw Allen in the yard and hurriedly said, "Teacher, you are back. Vivian, did you make these things?" Allen said when he saw the little lolly. "Yes, mentor. Jess and I saw that the yard was a little empty, so we planted some magic plants." Seeing Allen's apprentice was a little uneasy. "Haha, don't be nervous." Looking at the somewhat nervous apprentice, Allen smiled gently. "Since you planted it, there is no problem. These can be used as your reward for taking care of the medicinal field." Allen has not lived in the academy for a long time. This house is taken care of by 2 apprentices. Now it seems that they are doing a good job. "Is Jess here? Ask her to come over. I happen to be free today. You can ask me any questions." Allen then remembered that he was still a mentor, but he had never fulfilled his obligations as a mentor. If it weren't for Lilith, these 2 little girls would not even have the strength of intermediate wizard apprentices. It turns out that a combination of work and rest is life. Allen lay on his back on the soft hammock. The breeze blew, and the hammock swayed from side to side. The yard was filled with the fragrance of several different flowers. The 2 apprentices sat on the stone bench next to them with serious faces, holding a quill pen, and writing and drawing on a notebook. Potion science is a very rigorous discipline. It is widely used in the training, combat, promotion, and daily life of wizards, so it has a bright future. Even if you are just a junior pharmacist who can refine a few kinds of potions, the funds you get are enough for your training. A pharmacist does not have many tools. The most important one is a multifunctional alchemy table. The one produced by the alchemy tower will do. But you don't have that much money now, so you can use mine first. You are just beginners now. Start by refining the simplest healing potions and physical potions. Many materials in potions have certain toxicity and impurities. You must try your best to eliminate these toxicities and impurities when refining. Otherwise, the healing potions you refine may very likely turn into poisons. By then, the person will not be saved, but poisoned to death, which will be a big trouble. Allen was lying on the hammock, answering questions one by one about the methods of refining healing potions and physical potions, and about matters. The little girls knew that this was a rare opportunity, so they were writing furiously. They had already used the wizard's hand very skillfully, and they could also use the transcription technique, so even though Allen spoke very quickly, they could keep up. After seeing that the writing was finished, Allen continued, "I'll show you how to do it. Pay attention and watch. I'll only do it once." After that, he went directly to the laboratory. This kind of healing potion, which was not even a low-level potion, was not difficult for Allen. Soon, a bottle of green paste appeared in the crystal beaker. "This is a healing potion." Then he casually released an identification spell, and the potion emitted a green light. Use the identification spell to identify it after it is refined. The more green light, the better the quality. Okay, then you can practice it yourself. After that, Allen put down the crystal bottle and returned to the hammock. Allen came back this time to exchange for some white dragon's internal organs. He had not used the heart of Smorg yet. The heart of a dragon can be used to refine many precious potions. Allen was going to refine the dragon heart potion. There are many types of dragon heart potions. You can use pure-blooded dragons or low-level dragon beasts, but the effects of the potions will be very different. Most of the time, dragon heart potions are made with sub-dragon hearts. After all, there are not many dragons in the wizarding world. and pure-blooded dragons are not easy to mess with. Last time, it was a white dragon among the 5-colored dragons, so even though it was an ancient dragon, it was easily surrounded and killed. If it was a red dragon among the 5-colored dragons, if the 5 Rings Tower dared to slay the dragon, the final result would be that it would be burned to death by the red dragon's breath. The red dragon in the ancient dragon stage is already a high-level legendary creature. The power of the dragon breath exceeds the legendary spell level. The ancient dragon can spit continuously, and even Dean Alfred can't stand it. Chapter 253 Dragon Heart. The Dragon Heart potion made from the heart of a sub-dragon beast is called a secondary Dragon Heart potion. Its function is to increase the physical fitness of a wizard by a small amount. As for how much it increases, it depends on the quality of the Dragon Heart. Allen naturally did not make such a low-level thing. He was going to make a real Dragon Heart potion. The name of this potion is the Heart of the Giant Dragon. This potion can greatly increase the physical fitness of a wizard, and for Allen, it also has another function, which is to speed up the advancement of dragon veins. Allen has exchanged the potion formula, which divides the Dragon Heart potion into several levels: secondary Dragon Heart potion, primary Dragon Heart potion, intermediate Dragon Heart potion, advanced Dragon Heart potion, and giant Dragon Heart potion. The 5 Rings Tower refined a batch of intermediate Dragon Heart potions and a bottle of giant Dragon Heart potion. The heart of the white dragon is used because it is a white dragon from the ancient dragon period. Although its vitality has weakened, its effect is still powerful. It is said that it was assigned to Fedel, the chief wizard of the combat unit. Allen speculated that his physical strength is close to that of an adult white dragon. Smaug has the blood of a red dragon, so the power of the Dragon Heart is very explosive. It can be directly used as the main material of the Dragon Heart potion. Although it can be successfully refined, the effect is too strong. After taking it, it will cause a large loss of efficacy, so Allen plans to neutralize it with the white dragon's internal organs. The advantage of doing this is that the effect is long-lasting, restrained, and will not be wasted, and it can be released continuously. After a day of rest, Allen came to the merit exchange area of the academy. Some precious resources in the 5 Rings Tower require a certain merit value to purchase and trade, such as the materials on the white dragon's body, which require extremely high merit. Allen completes the academy's tasks every year, so he has accumulated a lot. In addition, he has never exchanged in the academy, so his merit barely meets the requirements. After all, the dragon's internal organs are the lowest value except the heart. Welcome. As Allen walked in, a pretty girl greeted him enthusiastically. Excuse me, what do you need? Seeing the badge of the 2nd level wizard on Allen's chest, the girl said respectfully, I need to exchange some internal organs of the white dragon. Allen glanced around and said, there are 4 areas here: the apprentice area, the formal wizard area, the senior wizard area and the mysterious area. As the name suggests, the former area is what apprentices, formal wizards and senior wizards can use. As for the mysterious area, it is like a hodgepodge, with many magical plants, some broken skeletons, organs and some strange things. The merit value required for the white dragon's internal organs is 500. Please show me some badges first, the girl said with a smile. Here you go. Allen took off the badge and handed it to the girl. The girl took the badge respectfully and put it on an instrument. A flash of inspiration came to her, and she handed it back and said, 527 merits. The merit value meets the standard and can be exchanged. Allen took it casually and put the badge back on. Please wait a moment. The girl bowed and walked quickly into the room behind the counter. Soon she came out with a crystal bottle. The crystal bottle was sealed and preserved. You can see that there is a piece of liver inside. Sir, please see, this is a piece of the white dragon's liver. This is the only piece of liver left. She put the crystal bottle on the counter for Allen to check. Allen picked up the crystal bottle and looked at it for a moment, then cast an appraisal spell. Seeing that the white dragon liver was well preserved, he nodded with satisfaction. Very good. The energy has not been lost. I'm very satisfied. Since you are satisfied, then let's talk about the price next. Seeing Allen nod, the girl smiled and said, a piece of ancient white dragon liver weighing 120 g needs 1,300 magic stones. to be purchased with magic stones, or it can be exchanged with other materials of the same price. However, the value of the exchanged materials is subject to the price of our appraiser. If you agree, then the transaction will continue. If you disagree, I'm sorry that this piece of white dragon liver cannot be exchanged for you because of the regulations. The girl explained the rules here. The price of 1,300 magic stones was somewhat unexpected by Allen. This price was a bit expensive. Allen had issued many tasks, so the consumption of magic stones was a bit high. Now there were only 1,000 magic stones. Looking at the only piece of white dragon liver left, Allen gritted his teeth. I choose to exchange magic stones and materials. Sir, please give us the materials you want to exchange for identification. The female apprentice smiled slightly, not surprised. Allen calculated for a moment, then took out a crystal bottle and put it on the counter expressionlessly. Sir, please wait a moment. The girl gently knocked on the bell next to her, and a weak spell wave rippled out. The wave was weak and disappeared in an instant. Soon, an old man with grey hair and a dirty wizard robe whose original color could not be seen came over. Who wants to identify something? His tone sounded stiff, and it seemed that he was in a bad mood. Master Ariel, it is this sir who needs to identify the item. The girl saw the old man and bowed quickly. Where is the thing? The old man didn't even look at it, and went straight to the stool next to him and sat down. The thing is here, please take a look. The girl quickly handed over the crystal bottle. Allen only then saw the badge on the old man's chest, which was the symbol of a 3rd level wizard. I didn't expect that this sloppy old man was actually a 3rd level wizard. The old man ignored Allen and directly picked up the crystal bottle to check it. At first, he looked indifferent, but as time went by, he gradually became surprised. Young man, is this yours? The old man raised his head instantly, staring at Allen. Is there anyone else here? Allen asked unhappily. Where did you get this thing from? After receiving a positive answer, the old man grabbed Allen and asked, why do you have to explain the origin of the items when exchanging things here? Allen broke free of his arm and glanced at him and asked, no. The old man was a little speechless. That's fine, tell me the value. Allen said casually. Young man, you want to exchange for a white dragon liver, right? So, how about you sell this bottle of blood essence to me, and then use magic stones to exchange for the white dragon liver? The old man said after a slight hesitation. Tell me first, how much magic stones is this bottle of blood essence worth? Allen said without comment. Your bottle of blood essence contains Hydra blood. Although it's not much, it's still 800 magic stones. The old man said after a pause. You can't calculate the price like this. Hydra's blood is not easy to find. Allen said without comment. It's indeed hard to find, but its value is only this much. Ariel picked up the teacup and said nonchalantly, but his eyes kept sweeping over it. I'll give you this bottle of blood essence, and you exchange it for a white dragon liver. How about that? Allen said with a slight smile. No, the value of your item is a few hundred magic stones less than the dragon liver. The old man shook his head and refused. Hydra's blood is not easy to find. Where else can you get it except from me? Although white dragon liver is rare, the liver of the ice pterosaur can be used. If you miss it, you will never find it again. Allen's fingers flicked the table regularly, looking at the old man leisurely. Okay, you win. Ariel's face changed for a while, and finally said expressionlessly. Although he lost a few hundred magic stones, Hydra's blood is not easy to find. It is crucial to his experiment. As for those magic stones, he didn't care at all. Allen smiled triumphantly and quickly handed the crystal bottle to Ariel. Of course you should save a few hundred magic stones if you can. Although this old man has a bad attitude, he is very sensible. Chapter 254 Dragon Heart Potion. Laboratory. After preparing all the materials, Allen took a deep breath. The Supreme Ring was transformed into a Guardian Ring by Allen. The ring was attached with calmness, composure, and concentration. These states can improve the success rate of Allen's potion refining. With the help of the chip, he is confident in refining the top potion this time. The main material of the dragon's heart is the heart of the dragon. The heart that Allen got belongs to the mixed blood dragon family, and the effect is comparable to that of the white dragon. Most of the other auxiliary materials are magical plants. The wizard's potion can definitely be called a dark pharmacy. There are very few normal materials used in it. For example, there is a graphite potion in the ghost tower. Although the material is graphite, this potion has nothing to do with graphite. The main material used is an unborn fetus. A solution is directly injected into the mother's abdomen to melt the fetus into liquid. Except for those crazy black wizards, no one dares to try it. There is also a famous potion, the Soul Awakening Potion, whose main formula uses a soul crystal. It can greatly increase the chances of wizard apprentices advancing. A war broke out between wizards for this potion, and eventually this potion was listed as a taboo. Chip. Retrieve the Dragon Heart Potion. Start data scanning. Scan the radiation force field. Digitalize the state. Monitor energy transmission and material changes. Allen stabilized his mind. The power of the ring kept him in the best condition. He snapped his fingers, a flash of inspiration passed, and the alchemy table was activated. Wisps of elemental fire jumped, took out a quartz crucible, put a few red plants in it to heat, and soon these plants changed color. Use the wizard's hand to take out the plants, and put them into the crusher, and finally get a reddish brown powder. Next is the elemental water. A small bottle of elemental water was opened, and Allen poured it in carefully, stirring and muttering something. The preparation of potions sometimes requires specific spells, just like now. With the integration of elemental water, a strange spell fluctuation gradually spread, and finally only some light blue solution was left in the crucible. The solution was clear and transparent, with a faint fragrance. Chip. Detect the water of silence. Allen put down the glass rod and stared at the light blue liquid. The target energy radiation is normal. The element fluctuation meets the requirements. The material properties meet the requirements. The water of silence is successfully prepared. Quality, excellent. Seeing the test results of the chip, Allen nodded with satisfaction. Although he had simulated hundreds of times, he was still a little worried. The water of silence in front of him is a neutralizer that can perfectly blend two substances with conflicting properties without losing the medicinal properties. After putting the water of silence into the crystal bottle and putting it away, Allen began to deal with other materials. Carefully take out the liver of the white dragon. As a legendary magical creature, the dragon's internal organs are highly poisonous. If you want to use them, you must first remove the toxins. After using several other potions and materials, the liver of the white dragon was processed and turned into a sticky liquid with a chill. The energy intensity around it continued to rise, and elemental particles were also attracted. The chip has been marking the radiation intensity and energy level around it. Those wizards without chips can only rely on their feelings to proceed to the next step. If they want to grasp the best time, they need a lot of experimental materials to practice. Now, Allen's finger shot a flash of spiritual light, and the sticky solution in front of him instantly boiled, and a large number of elemental particles poured into the liquid. In the end, only 1/3 of the original liquid remained. This is the essence of the entire white dragon's liver. The remaining liquid has clearly felt the energy contained in it. Next, we need to deal with the most critical thing. The most critical part of the dragon's heart potion. A half-meter high polyhedron crystal was taken out by Allen. In the crystal was a heart the size of a football. As the heart was taken out, the energy intensity around it directly increased by several scales. With a snap of his fingers, the crystals wrapped around the periphery slowly disappeared, and a huge heart appeared in the laboratory. There was a palm-sized crack in the middle of the heart, which was the wound torn by the black arrow. Although it had been dead for a long time, the heart was still alive. A trace of golden light flowed, and the heart was exposed to the air. The energy contained in it began to slowly dissipate. Allen snapped his fingers and divided the heart into two pieces, one large and one small. Then he sealed the small one again and put it away, and then quickly took out the prepared materials. Soon the heart turned into a red viscous liquid, and a trace of golden light flashed on the surface of the liquid. Add the prepared water of silence into it, and then stir, and add the white dragon liver solution. The surrounding energy began to fluctuate violently, and a large number of elemental particles became active. Energy begins to transition. Radiation increases. Active substances increase. A trace of corporate luster appears in the liquid, and the elemental particles form colorful colors. Various substances undergo strange changes at this moment, and the energy fluctuations around them begin to increase rapidly. Allen dares not neglect it at all. A beautiful ancient Sith language is chanted from Allen's mouth. As the sound spreads, the violent energy around begins to become docile. A large amount of energy is integrated into it, and finally it begins to slowly return to silence. Finally, the solution turns into an attractive purple-red color. The liquid is slightly transparent, and golden light flashes from time to time. Energy returns to normal. The elemental particles are calmed. The radiation field is stable. The Dragon Heart potion has been successfully refined. The potion is put into the crystal bottle. As the liquid ripples, golden brilliance emerges in the solution. Compared with the Dragon Heart potion in the record, the quality of this bottle of potion is obviously much higher. Looking at this bottle of unusually beautiful solution, Allen is in a good mood. Allen picked up the refined Dragon Heart and drank it directly. The taste was a little unexpected. It didn't have the strange taste he imagined, but a strange sweetness. As the potion entered his body, a warm energy rose directly from his stomach and traveled through his body. This energy was not violent, but very gentle, but the energy was strong and flowed through his body without any signs of weakening. Allen's physical fitness began to improve slowly with the flow of energy. This feeling was like soaking in a hot spring. Allen speculated that the effect of this bottle of Dragon Heart would last for about a month, and then the energy contained in it would slowly integrate into the body in the next year. The red dragon blood in Allen's body also began to enter the adult stage. Taking the Dragon Heart potion saved him a lot of time. Allen now felt his strength increasing all the time, and his physical fitness was likely to catch up with the red dragon. Just think about it, with the physical fitness of a red dragon and the spellcasting ability of a wizard, the picture must be beautiful. Chapter 255 Pirates of the Caribbean. Dilapidated houses, dirty streets. The air is intertwined with the smell of fish and biological excrement. This is a busy market. There are a lot of ragged pedestrians around. In the distant port, a team of red shrimp soldiers wearing red uniforms and tight pants are walking around with old-fashioned muskets on their backs. On the cliff in the distance, some hanged prisoners are hanging. Judging from their attire, they should be pirates. Frowning, Allen turned and left the market. The element concentration is in a low magic state. The technology is the Earth around the 18th century, and the languages are English, French and Spanish. This should be the Earth during the Age of Discovery. After a few casual observations, Allen roughly calculated the era he was in. Earth, 18th century, pirates, low magic environment. These should add up to Pirates of the Caribbean. The footsteps of the abyss are getting closer and closer, and Allen is running out of time. After activating the clone, he stayed in the wizard tower to guard, then opened the crossing interface and directly started the plane crossing. In the 18th century, during the Great Age of Exploration, countless women flocked to the ocean for wealth and status, driving sailing warships to obtain huge wealth in the ocean. Shiploads of gold, silver, sugar, tobacco, coffee and other goods were continuously transported from the New World to Europe by merchants, and countless merchants entered the ocean trade under the temptation of gold. Sailing from Europe and the Old World, loaded with cheap industrial products, they came to Africa and traded with some large tribes to obtain black slaves or directly captured black slaves, and then filled the ships with black slaves, set sail along the North Equatorial Current, across the Atlantic Ocean, and arrived in the Caribbean Sea. In this process, half of the black slaves died at sea due to diseases and other reasons, and the rest were sold to local plantation owners. Next, ships loaded with gold, silver, various sugars, tobacco and other raw materials returned to Europe along the Mexican Warm Current and the North Atlantic Warm Current. This is the Black Triangle trade that has flowed with gold, and is also full of sin in history. Pirates, this ancient profession, has also flourished again with the prosperity of ocean trade. The huge and enviable benefits were due to the rampant pirates in the Caribbean at that time. Countless people were willing to join the ranks of pirates at the risk of being caught and sentenced to hanging. Even the vast majority of sea merchants were also engaged in pirate activities. They were doing normal trade, and then when they found their targets, they raised the pirate flag, killed people, set fires, and destroyed the stolen goods. The sea would bury all these crimes. A large number of farmers, criminals, villains, and handicraftsmen who lost their land, who were squeezed and bankrupted, took the risk to become sailors or pirates. There were countless pirate treasures and various strange rumors circulating here. There were countless mysteries hidden in the sea. More and more people fantasized about finding pirate treasures and getting rich. Some remote pirate ports were occupied by pirates and developed into pirate ports. A large number of pirates gathered here, and smugglers and prostitutes also came in droves. This became a place to sell stolen goods. Countless pirates lived a life of drunkenness and dreams in brothels, taverns, and casinos here. Pirates created the abnormal prosperity of these ports. Arms, food, and alcohol. Industrial products were sold in large quantities here. Not only are there a large number of pirates among the people, but even the government has issued privateering licenses, making pirates legal with privateering licenses. The future famous British Empire was founded by pirates. Recalling the history of this world, Allen began to look for what he needed: the fountain of youth, the ocean goddess, the mermaid, the giant sea monster, and the legendary trident of the sea god Poseidon in the Caribbean world. The fountain of youth has limited appeal to Allen, but it can only bless another person's life to oneself, and can only be used once. Mermaids are pretty, but they can't use spells, so Allen is not very interested in them. The octopus face is interesting. You can try to extract the soul, and the sea monster extracts blood, to see what you find. The ocean goddess may be the first god Allen has met. Although her power is limited on the surface, and she is sealed, Allen doesn't think she is a weak chicken. You know, even a god with the lowest level of weak divine power is stronger than a legend. Although Allen is powerful, he is not ready to have anal sex with the gods. The thing that moved him most in this world might be the artifact. The trident of Poseidon, the god of the sea, was definitely stronger than the magic item made by Allen, no matter how weak it was. Moreover, as one of the main gods, Poseidon was at least a god of medium power, or even a powerful god. Although he disappeared for unknown reasons, the weapon he left behind was definitely powerful. It was not easy to find the artifact. As a god of the sea, he could only find it in the sea, if he knew the right way. He didn't know these clues, but someone knew, and that was the protagonist of this world, the captain of the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow. But before that, Allen needed a boat. Jack Sparrow had a magical compass that could guide the direction of what you were looking for. Port Royal, Jamaica Island. This was a port with a population of tens of thousands, which was a great city in this period. As a shipping center and commercial center in the Caribbean, it was prosperous, and there were several battleships in the port. This port now belongs to the British, who regard it as a free port. In fact, it was the largest pirate port in history. A large number of pirates who accepted the amnesty of British gentlemen used this place as their home port to plunder fleets from other countries. After asking the surrounding citizens about the location of the city hall, Allen came here along the street. Two red shrimp soldiers stood at the door with muskets on their backs. Allen casually cast "Dominate Humans" and easily obtained a legal identity from the affairs officer. Because he didn't know how long he would stay here, Allen planned to build a settlement here. He spent a few gold coins to buy a square kilometer of land. This land was located on a hillside, and standing on the hillside, he could overlook the entire port. The view here was very good, and it was also a ground vein node, which was enough to be used as a temporary base. After spending some money, a manor was quickly built here, and everyone in Royal Port knew that a generous gentleman had come here. Even the governor of this port invited Allen to his cocktail party, but Allen knew that their real purpose was to confirm whether Allen was a pirate who had come ashore. A manor was built, and Allen simply arranged his residence. He planted a lot of thorn vines and carnivorous plants around the walls. These magical plants could well ensure that he would not be disturbed by some uninvited guests who did not take the usual route. He simply arranged some rune arrays on the ground vein nodes, and soon the whole yard was filled with elemental energy. Chapter 256 Red Dragon Lord. Allen arrived a little early. The daughter of the governor of Royal Port was not yet an adult, and there was no sign of Captain Jack. But Allen opened a plantation on the hillside, where he planted some sugar cane, tobacco and grapes. The mice in the port were eager to try when they learned that a rich man had come. In their opinion, this man was rich, single, had no strength, and lived alone on the hillside. He was a big fat sheep. After confirming that Allen was alone, some mice finally couldn't help it. They took advantage of the night to quietly approach the manor and climbed over the wall to enter, but they never knew what was in the grass next to them. One by one, the thorny vines and the carnivorous plants killed and ate these little mice, and clusters grew extremely lush. There were fewer mice in the silent port. No one found out where they went, and being eaten by the carnivorous plants would not leave any traces. Those greedy mice came to Allen's manor in groups, wanting to gain wealth, but they ended up adding nutrients to the magic plants such as the carnivorous plants. Finally, after hundreds of people disappeared, the rats in the port finally found out that something was wrong. A large number of grey gangs disappeared, but Allen was still alive and well. From then on, the manor became a taboo place in Royal Port. After the manor was built, Allen hired a group of people, housekeepers, maids and some guards. After all, there were still many things that needed to be handled by others. The plantation also bought some black slaves for planting, and the income obtained was used to maintain the operation of the manor. "Master, I'm sorry to interrupt your meal." Butler Stewart saluted with impeccable etiquette. This butler was a British butler hired by Allen. In his previous life, British butlers were world famous. This time I have a chance to try it. "It's okay, Stewart." Allen put down his chopsticks and said, "What's the matter?" "Master, you ordered to buy wood to build ships and it's ready." Stewart continued, "But I didn't buy the wood you asked for to build warships." "What wood did you find?" Allen picked up the white napkin and wiped the corners of his mouth and said, "Sorry, sir, I only bought some fir and pine. As for the better teak, Mu, and oak, they are all controlled by the government and shipped back to the mainland to build warships. There are very few in private hands. And most importantly, only the Royal Navy has some in reserve here in Royal Port." Allen listened quietly, tapping his fingers on the table regularly. "Have you found a shipyard?" "Sir, the shipyard has been arranged. As long as the wood is ready, construction can start soon," Stewart said respectfully. "Then use fir and pine to make it. I need to build a double-deck fast-sailing ship." Allen decided directly. "Comply with your will." After saying that, Stewart saluted respectfully and left. He will supervise the construction of the ship. As a professional butler, these matters must be handled perfectly. For this ship, Allen is going to cast a spell on it. Although the best wood is not used, after the hardening technique is performed, the hardness of the woodboard can reach the strength of steel. A ship needs many sailors to operate. Allen is not going to recruit sailors. He plans to transform this ship into an all-chemical life, a ship that can sail on its own. It takes 3 to 6 months to build a qualified armed merchant ship. Allen gave sufficient funds, so the merchant ship was built very quickly. 3 months later, a brand new armed merchant ship appeared in the dock. "Dear Sir Allen, the ship you entrusted us to build has been completed. You see, this is your ship. You can drive it away at any time. If you need sailors, you only need to spend a little money to recruit enough sailors, or you can entrust it to us. We are happy to serve you." A short and fat man with a smile in front of him introduced the ship in front of Allen. After Allen walked around the ship, he nodded. "Not bad. I'm very satisfied. As long as you are satisfied." The shipyard owner was delighted when he saw Allen was satisfied. This ship made him a lot of money, and he was very flattering to Allen, the sponsor. "Don't rush to drive away. I need to rent this dock for a while. The merchant ship needs to install weapons and some parts need to be modified. I will pay you to rent it here," Allen said in front of the merchant ship. "I'm happy to serve you. If you have any ideas, we can modify it for you." The shipyard owner smiled and agreed immediately. "Haha, you don't need to modify it this time. You just need to close this dock for a month and no one is allowed to enter without my permission." Allen waved his hand and said, "Is that so? I will arrange for people to close it immediately. No one will enter without your permission." The shipyard owner heard Allen's request and seemed to think of something and quickly agreed. As a shipyard owner, he knew that many armed merchant ships would make some modifications in the cabin, hiding a mezzanine inside to smuggle some contraband. Naturally, the fewer people know about this modification, the better. The shipyard owner, who had made up his mind had an expression of "I understand," and patted his chest, and vowed to keep it absolutely confidential. Allen looked at the shipyard owner with some doubts, as if he knew something. After seeing his promise, he stopped talking, and soon these people left the dock. Allen came to the dock alone, and started the transformation work. First, all the shipboards needed to be reinforced. There was a lot of experience in hardening the obsidian ground before. Hardening the shipboard was just a small project. It took a day for Allen to harden the wooden boards of the entire hull. At this time, the hardness of the entire merchant ship was no worse than that of a steel warship. Next, a power system needs to be installed. This is easy to do. The power required for a ship to sail in the water is much smaller than that of a floating tower. A rune array can do it. A power room is divided in the cabin. Several magic crystals are inlaid in the middle of the rune array. They are places to store energy. The rune array can gather the free energy particles around and store them in the energy crystals. The energy crystals then transmit the energy to the bottom of the cabin, where the propulsion device of the ship is. The ship also has sails. Allen enchanted the sails and cables. Taking out the low-level soul crystal of opportunity, Allen created a simple soul for the ship. Soul endowment. Activate life. As the spiritual light was released one after another, a cold breath enveloped, a large amount of negative energy gathered, and a large amount of fog appeared around, covering the entire merchant ship. After a while, the fog dissipated, and the merchant ship reappeared. There seemed to be no changes, but in Allen's perception, a newborn soul appeared. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257, The Gods Behind. With the soul, the ship can sail on its own without the need for sailors. In the days to come, various parts will need to be transformed. A repair spell has been added to the sails, so they can repair themselves after being damaged. A wind element formation is also engraved on it, so that there will be wind blowing the sails at any time, and the speed of the ship is extremely fast. The cables have been blessed with activation spells, and turned into activated cables, which can perform various actions. A ram is installed on the bow, and Allen has added armor piercing, which can easily tear even steel. Allen installed 36 cannons on the deck. These cannons are directly controlled by the soul of this ship. The cannons have also been blessed. All the ammunition fired will be blessed with a layer of explosion spell. The power is comparable to modern small caliber artillery. According to the defensive ships in this era, one shot can destroy most of them. This merchant ship has been armed to the teeth by Allen. Item: activated ship, Red Dragon Lord. Type: activated all chemical life. Item description: this was originally just an ordinary merchant ship. After being transformed by a powerful wizard, it became a living all chemical life ship. It has simple wisdom, and can move forward, attack, and repair itself. It can sail in any sea area. Its speed is extremely fast. Its powerful attack and defense make it the overlord of the sea. Owner: Allen. Equipment: Despair Ram, Fire Element Cannon, 36 guns, Wind Element Sail, Activated Cable, Storage Warehouse. Skills: Summon Mist, Underwater Navigation, Activated Life, Activated Cable, Undead Binding, Flame Jet, Charge. Seeing the masterpiece of this period, Allen nodded with satisfaction. The hard work during this period was worth it. Seeing this ship again, the shipyard owner Redson always felt that something was wrong. The merchant ship did not seem to have any changes on the surface, but after careful observation, it seemed that there was some indescribable feeling. To be precise, this ship seemed to have life. The lock opened, and soon the sea water entered the dock. The brand new merchant ship slowly left the dock and headed for the sea. On the tranquil sea, the Red Dragon King sailed silently. Allen began to test the performance of the ship. He raised the sails and the ship rushed to the deep sea at a high speed. After making sure that there was no one around, Allen began to conduct various tests. The first test was the speed of the ship. After the speed was fully opened, the speed of the ship increased visibly. The side of the ship hit the water surface, splashing waves. Soon the chip calculated the speed of the ship. The speed of this ship can reach up to 73 nautical miles/hour. No ship in this era can catch up with this speed. Dive. After testing the surface speed, Allen directly conducted underwater tests. The Red Dragon King suddenly shook, and then the hull deck opened, and the ship began to sink. The invisible force pushed the seawater away, as if it was covered by a transparent cover, and it did not move under the impact of the seawater. Soon the whole ship entered the sea. The Red Dragon King sailed on the seabed. Various marine creatures could be seen around it. The cables floated back and forth in the seawater, and could grab and pull things around. Groups of fish swam outside the cover, and they could not enter the cover. The speed of the Red Dragon Lord underwater is much slower, only 58 knots per hour. But it is enough to use. After testing all other functions, Allen stopped the ship on the sea surface. After modifying some minor defects, Allen let the ship return. There are many hidden gods in this world. Allen does not want to expose them without knowing their strength. Through various clues, the gods that can be confirmed include the goddess of the sea. Although she was sealed in an old and ugly human body by 9 pirate kings, it cannot be said that her strength is not good. It can only be said that David Jones knows her weakness. Moreover, David Jones, a man who dares to roll with the sea god, is not ordinary. There is also a god hidden in the dark. This god is the god worshipped by the Indians. He did not show up, but those cursed Aztec gold coins always remind people of his existence. Those pirates who spent 882 cursed gold coins have now become undead pirates. They will turn into skeletons in the moonlight. Although they will not die, they have lost more things. They cannot drink water when they are thirsty, and cannot eat when they are hungry. All food will turn into sand. Only by returning all the gold coins and performing blood sacrifice can they be relieved. There is also the Fountain of Youth. This spring is also left by a god. Although it was destroyed in the end, Allen is not sure whether this god still exists. The last one is Poseidon, the god of the sea. Although Poseidon did not appear in this world, as long as the trident is mentioned, everyone's first impression is Poseidon. As Poseidon's weapon, Allen does not believe that he does not exist. Similarly, many other places in the ocean are controlled by Poseidon's power. That Bermuda and the undead in the ocean are all manifestations of Poseidon's power. There are so many gods hidden in this sea area alone. Allen has to be cautious. Although the human strength in this world is average, there are gods. Without knowing the status of these gods, it is wise to keep a low profile. Without knowing the strength of the gods, he will not make rash contacts. The pirates in this world know a lot of secrets on the sea, such as the secret of the goddess of the sea. Only by mastering this secret can these mortals seal it. Similarly, these bloodthirsty bandits who roam the oceans have high IQs. They have not encountered any adventures, so Allen doesn't know. In the following days, Allen would go out to sea every once in a while, and he explored the surrounding seas. In this new continent, the Indians believed in many gods. Allen went to many temples, but unfortunately, most of the temples did not find any traces of gods. The only trace of gods found was a dilapidated altar, which was an altar for the god of harvest. The divine power left on it was very weak and almost dissipated. In this case, either the gods fell into sleep or died. Faith in gods will be limited by faith. Once there are too few believers, they will fall into sleep, and if there are no believers, they will fall from the altar and finally die. Allen also found a large number of statues of Quetzalcoatl here. Quetzalcoatl is a powerful divine creature. It is said that they live in the wind element plane in some ancient tropical rainforests. Allen has only seen their pictures in some books. There are very few Quetzalcoatls in the multiverse. Their image is very similar to the giant dragons of the east, with snake-like bodies and huge wings. Allen thinks they are very similar to the Yingling in the eastern mythology. They are in charge of the rainy season, sowing and harvesting, harvest and many other fields, and some even control death, rebirth and the sun. Adult Quetzalcoatls are legendary creatures, and dragons can easily fight against them. The temples and cities here are decorated with Quetzalcoatls. However, Quetzalcoatl hates blood sacrifices, and the sacrifices here often use the blood sacrifice of living people. Quetzalcoatl should not accept their sacrifices. Although blood sacrifices can quickly enhance the strength of gods, they also have endless troubles. There are many gods in the multiverse who like blood sacrifices. The most famous of them is the desert death god, followed by the indigenous gods. Chapter 258 Waiting. 18th century, there were very few ways to entertain people, especially for Allen, who had experienced the great era of entertainment in later generations. But for people of this era, this port city in the Caribbean was a place of joy. After nightfall, a large number of sailors, or pirates in disguise, wandered between taverns and brothels, telling vulgar jokes, drinking inferior rum, holding prostitutes with half-exposed breasts in their arms, and laughing loudly. This was the norm during the age of exploration. Although humans could already sail on the ocean, every time they went out to sea, they were gambling with their lives. The high returns made them develop the habit of enjoying themselves crazily every time they docked. The noisy environment, tobacco, alcohol, sweat, and the inferior perfume sprayed on prostitutes mixed together to form a weird smell. Especially during this period, Europeans did not like to take a bath, which was simply biochemical poison. One theory is that they believed that water was the source of the spread of disease. The most famous incident was the Black Death, when the Black Death broke out in Europe and killed tens of millions of people, equivalent to 1/3 of the population of Europe at that time. Now everyone knows that the Black Death is the plague, but the problem is that people of that era didn't know it. They saw many people taking a bath in the bathroom, and then they got sick and died. They thought that the Black Death was caused by taking a bath, so they were afraid to take a bath. There is also a saying that the dirtier the body is, the closer it is to the god they believe in. I think this is unreliable. It is so smelly that the god will also be killed by the stink. It is said that if a person does not take a bath for a lifetime, he may be canonized as a saint. This trend has led to believers not taking a bath one by one in order to become a saint. The famous French son King Louis XIV took a bath in the single digits in his life. His son Louis XV was even worse. He only took a bath 3 times in his life, when he was born, married, and died. You can imagine the smell of these nobles at that time. In order to cover up the bad smell on his body, Louis XIV asked craftsmen to invent a spice, which is perfume. The invention of perfume became popular in France overnight, and then spread to the entire European continent. Don't expect this era to be as polite as you imagine, with nobles and handsome knights. Those are things that have been beautified countless times later. In this era, sailors and pirates have no quality, and the same is true for nobles and kings. Even the king urinated and defecated everywhere. It is said that there were no toilets or latrines in the French court, and the nobles all solved it in the bushes. When Allen first came to this era, he was full of curiosity about everything, but after wandering around, he found that the reality was even more cruel. Although the noble area was also dirty and messy, it was at least acceptable, but you had to be careful in the civilian area at any time, because excrement might fall from the sky. So after building the residence on the hillside, Allen built a complete drainage system in the manor, and even paved a road connecting the port with stone slabs, and asked the black slaves to clean it every day. The manor also built a bathhouse, and forced everyone to take a bath. Allen didn't want to be surrounded by a group of people who didn't take a bath. Soon the people in this port discovered that no matter whether it was the black slaves, servants, or housekeepers in Allen's manor, they never had that kind of bad smell on their bodies, and the manor was exceptionally clean. Although it was a bit out of tune with the people around him, this era advocated money, so it was understandable for rich people to have some quirks. As one of the richest people in this port, Allen often received invitations from some nobles to attend some banquets. Allen had attended them at the beginning, but the experience of these banquets was not pleasant. The fashion of this era made Allen feel that it was hot, and ruined his worldview. The era of the Sun King had just passed, and their aesthetics still influenced the whole of Europe. For example, Louis XIV wore a wig, because of hair loss and baldness. This weird trend swept across Europe. For a time, kings and nobles of various countries were proud to wear wigs. This trend began to spread to the civilian army. The nobles of this era would wear wigs on formal occasions. The shape of the wigs was very strange, and it looked like a curled book. Until the era before Allen traveled through time, this wig was still popular in some industries such as Britain and Hong Kong. If you think that just wearing a wig is a fashion, you are wrong. You can never imagine the aesthetics of European nobles in this era. In Allen's impression, high heels are worn by beautiful ladies, but in this era, high heels are men's favorite. Not only high heels, but also ballet skirts, that is, tights. Imagine a 40-year-old male white nobleman, tall and strong, wearing a pair of high heels, tight pants, and a wig, sprayed with perfume, and mixed with strong body odor. This picture is so beautiful. This weird style is the most popular fashion in Europe during this period. The portrait of the Sun King Louis XIV painted by the famous painter Hyacinthe Rigaud is wearing a wig, tight pants, and high heels. After attending several banquets, Allen rarely accepted invitations to go, and usually only asked the butler to bring a gift to congratulate. At first, these nobles still complained about Allen. These Europeans are very realistic. With the development of the age of exploration, Britain's strength is increasing day by day. This group of British people wished that their eyes grew to the top of their heads and looked down on humans in other places except Britain. Allen only used a mental suggestion, and this group of people kept trying to please him. If it weren't for the fear that his actions would interfere with the plot, causing Jack Sparrow to fail to arrive at Port Royal on time and unable to use Captain Jack's good luck to find the things he was interested in, Allen would have patted his butt and left long ago. He remembered that Jack Sparrow's first appearance was at the banquet where Colonel Narrington, the commander of the Royal Port Navy, was promoted to Commodore. Now Colonel Narrington was just a captain of the battleship Interceptor. The Royal Navy was now tracking down and arresting the rampant pirates in the Caribbean. After defeating the Spanish and dominating the Caribbean, the British no longer needed pirates. What they needed was prosperity and peace. The infrastructure of Royal Port was perfect, and ships came in and out every day. As a commercial center, those pirates who disrupted the order were naturally unwelcome. Security issues became a bottleneck hindering the development of the port. The result was obvious. When the birds were gone, the good bows were hidden. When the rabbits died, the running dogs were cooked. After all, not everyone had the courage to live in a chaotic and dangerous area. Captain Jack, the protagonist of this period, had been thrown on an island. Allen used prophecy to find him, but all he saw was a fog, and there was no effect. Obviously, he was hidden, and this world was not as simple as it seemed. Allen couldn't find Captain Jack, and he couldn't find the trident at all, so he had to stay in Royal Port and wait for him to appear. Chapter 259 Jack Sparrow. As Allen took the Dragon Heart potion, his physical fitness improved steadily. Every day he would take time to walk around and then study spells. There are many spells for 3rd level wizards. Allen's spell list has thousands of spells. The wide variety of spells allows him to have the right spells at any time and any place. There is also a legend of a ghost ship in Royal Port. Someone saw a ghost ship in the Caribbean Sea. The ghost ship was not operated by anyone. It was very fast, and it could sail underwater. Most people thought it was nonsense, that the drunkard was drunk, and not many people cared. Unknowingly, Allen has been in this world for 5 years. The morning sun dispelled the sea fog, and the humid sea breeze carried a fishy smell. The whole Royal Port has become noisy. Allen has gotten up, and he lightly snapped his fingers. The aura of cleaning flashed across, and Allen finished washing. Knock knock knock. Come in, Allen said casually, while tidying up his clothes in front of the mirror. Sir, excuse me for disturbing you. Stuart, the butler, walked in from the door, bowed respectfully to Allen, and then took out an invitation and said, Governor Weatherby Swan has just sent an invitation. He handed the invitation to Ellie with both hands and continued, Colonel Narrington will be promoted to Brigadier General in 3 days, and specially invites you to attend the ceremony. Allen took the invitation casually. The invitation wrapped in craft paper was exquisitely made, sealed with beeswax and a governor's badge printed on it. He gently opened the envelope, and inside was an invitation written in beautiful English. I see. Tell the person who came that I will be there on time. After putting away the invitation, Allen casually ordered, Is breakfast ready? It's ready for you, Stuart said respectfully. Seeing Stuart leave, Allen stood up, opened the curtains, and the slightly warm sunlight shone in. Outside the huge French window was a busy port. It's finally started. Looking at the port in the distance, Allen murmured in a low voice. 3 days later, Allen, wearing a gorgeous dress, took a carriage with his guards and servants to the port fortress. The carriage drove smoothly and soon arrived at the fortress. Seeing Allen's arrival, other nobles and merchants around greeted him politely. Allen smiled and replied one by one, and entered the hall with everyone. Governor Swan, who had been waiting for a long time, greeted him warmly. The two exchanged a few polite words, and then chatted with the people around them. Gentlemen, nobles, merchants, and bureaucrats from the entire port gathered together. At this time, a cheerful military music sounded. A team of red shrimp soldiers lined up in formation, and walked slowly with goose steps. And today's protagonist, Colonel Narrington, walked into the venue in a gorgeous military dress, tights, and a wig. The nobles, gentlemen, and merchants around applauded and congratulated. Colonel Narrington nodded proudly in return, and then entered the hall with Governor Swan. The governor took out a letter of appointment from the King of England and read it out in person, and then changed Colonel Narrington into a brigadier general's dress in the passionate military music. Then he gave a saber to the newly minted Brigadier General Narrington. People around took out their gifts. Allen's gift was a gorgeous crocodile leather belt inlaid with gold and silver patterns. This was specially prepared by Stuart. As a qualified British butler, he knew these etiquette better than Allen. Then the protagonist, the Brigadier General, invited Governor Swan's daughter to chat. Allen remembered that the Brigadier General liked the governor's daughter Elizabeth, but Miss Elizabeth seemed to like the little blacksmith more. Poor Brigadier General Narrington had not realized this yet. Just as Allen was thinking about it, a clamor sounded, and then a large number of red shrimp soldiers rushed to the seaside, and the scene was in a state of panic. Plop plop. Several diving sounds sounded in succession, and several red shrimp soldiers jumped into the sea to save people. Allen stood on the castle's observation deck and looked down. A white figure slowly sank in the sea. Then, a flexible figure quickly approached from the seawater, and dragged up the figure that had sunk to the bottom of the sea. Jack Sparrow. Finally, I've waited for you. Allen's eyes flashed. He whispered, and then turned and left the observation deck. Jack Sparrow bravely rescued Elizabeth, who fell into the water. The result of the hero's rescue was not that the beauty promised to marry him, and then the two lived a happy life, but that he was caught by Commodore Narrington, who arrived later, and by the way, he mocked Pirate Jack, and put him in jail. He cast a secret mark, and threw it on the prisoner Captain Jack, and Allen went to the manor happily. Soon the night fell, and our poor Captain Jack, along with other captured pirates, was imprisoned in prison, and the final fate waiting for them was the gallows. As the night fell, Allen flashed out of the manor, sensed the secret mark. Allen snapped his fingers, and a flash of light flashed. Invisibility. Teleportation. The next moment, the figure appeared in a dungeon. The dungeon was dark and damp, the air was turbid, and the stench filled the nose. With a weak wail, Allen walked to the depths of the dungeon with an expressionless face. At this time, Captain Jack was tied with shackles, and lying on a pile of straw. Allen moved and appeared in the prison. TSK TSK TSK. Look who this is. Isn't this our great Captain Jack? Isn't your current style the latest popular dress among pirates this year? Allen looked at Jack Sparrow in front of him with a smirk. Who are you? How did you appear here? Facing the sudden appearance of Allen, Jack Sparrow did not panic, but looked at Allen with some vigilance. It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that after tonight, you will be on the gallows. Allen glanced at Jack Sparrow's neck with ill intentions. How do you know my name? Who are you? Seeing Allen's sight, Jack Sparrow also felt his neck tighten. What do you want to see me for? Seeing that Allen did not make any further moves, Jack Sparrow sat up and seemed a little calm. Or, what can I do for you? Not bad. You are worthy of being the captain of the legendary Black Pearl. Allen nodded at the calm Jack Sparrow. You know my affairs very well. Jack Sparrow looked at Allen. I need you to do me a favor. Allen said lightly. I'm a prisoner who is about to go to the gallows. I can't help you. Jack Sparrow rolled his eyes, turned over and lay down, no longer paying attention to Allen. Chapter 260 Dream. Seeing the ruffian look of this man, Allen did not make any move, but his eyes flashed with a sly smile. Jack Sparrow, who turned over and lay down, was sure that Allen would save him. Just now, he heard that he wanted to do something by himself. His gesture was just to negotiate conditions. Although he lay down, He was always paying attention, wanting to hear Allen's promise, but there was no movement after a long time. Confused in his heart, he pretended to turn over accidentally and looked in the direction where Allen had just stood, but at a glance, there was no one there. Jack Sparrow turned over and sat up instantly and then searched the ground for Allen's traces, but he found nothing after half an hour of tossing and turning and almost thought he was hallucinating. After a bit of exhaustion and without any results, Jack Sparrow lay down in the straw with a depressed look on his face and gradually fell asleep. Bang, bang, bang. A noise woke Jack Sparrow up, and then he saw several jailers opening the cell door and pushing and shoving him out of the prison. A man who looked like a warden grabbed his hair, then took out a list, took a look and said, "Jack Sparrow?" Jack Sparrow, who had just woken up, nodded in confusion. "Take him away." As he said that, the two soldiers behind him directly picked him up and walked out, while the warden continued to open another cell. Soon, a group of prisoners came out in heavy shackles. The British Red Shrimp soldiers holding muskets around looked at the group of prisoners with disgust. Jack Sparrow lined up and slowly moved out of the dungeon and came to an open space. The perimeter of the open space was covered with Red Shrimp soldiers armed with live ammunition. A high platform was built in the middle, with a row of gallows hanging on it. Jack Sparrow, as a pirate, knew what to do instantly. The other death row prisoners who saw the high platform also understood, and the crowd suddenly became noisy. The Red Shrimp soldiers who were monitoring around aimed one by one, and the two rows of jailers whipped the prisoners with whips and sticks, and then forcibly pulled the prisoners onto the high platform. Put the rope around the head, and then pull the trigger hard. Swish. The flap opened, and the prisoner on it was in the air and fell directly, and then was tightly held by the rope around his neck. The prisoner was strangled to roll his eyes, his face was blue and purple, and his limbs struggled violently. After a minute, he died silently. After the coroner's inspection, he waved his hand and the jailers directly escorted the next prisoner over. After some operations, another dead body was hung up. Swish, swish, swish. As time went by, the prisoners were hanged one by one. Some of them wanted to resist, but the prisoners with heavy shackles had no power to fight back and were easily subdued. One by one, the prisoners with despair and cursing were hanged, and soon it was Jack Sparrow's turn. Facing death at this moment, Jack Sparrow struggled to resist, but was easily subdued and put on a noose. Then the executioner next to him looked at him with ill intentions, and in Jack Sparrow's horrified eyes, he pulled the trigger fiercely. Ah! Jack Sparrow, sweating profusely, sat up all of a sudden and found that everything just now was actually a dream. He reached out and touched his neck, which was intact, and then he breathed a sigh of relief. How does it feel to be alive? A cold voice suddenly sounded. Captain Jack, who was undecided, was startled. Looking up, it was a weird man whose dream finally came true. You. Jack Sparrow pointed a finger at Allen and wanted to say something. What do you mean? Elu interrupted directly. How was the dream just now? Is it very exciting and enjoyable? Allen looked at Jack, who was still in shock, with a smirk on his face. Is hanging fun? What? Don't you like it? I have other methods here, such as beheading, and burning. If you are not satisfied with any of them, then this piercing will definitely satisfy you. I have always wanted to find someone to test it. Allen looked up and down at Jack Sparrow with ill intentions. This spell is memory weaving, which can only be performed by third level wizards. Allen slightly modified it and it became dream weaving. Demons are masters of this spell. They often use various methods to deceive ordinary people into signing contracts and then obtain souls. Then they torture the poor soul in various ways. After this kind of grinding, the soul crystal has a certain probability of glowing with dazzling light and becoming a high quality soul crystal, but the failure rate is also very high. Captain Jack shook his head in horror, like a frightened little rabbit. Is that so? You are not satisfied with anything? It is really a headache. How about we draw lots to decide? Allen took out a bamboo tube with more than a dozen bamboo sticks in it and put it in front of Jack. Sir, I agree. I agree to help you. Please take these things away. Jack Sparrow said repeatedly. Actually, my business is not important. I want to try those punishments more. Allen curled his lips. Sir, if you have any instructions, Jack Sparrow is willing to serve you. Captain Jack could no longer sit still. He stood up and made a gentleman's salute, saying righteously, "Really? Really? My business is very difficult. No matter how difficult it is, I will definitely do it for you. Please believe me," Jack Sparrow said firmly. "That's what you said. I didn't force you. I'll give you another chance. You can try to consider it. It doesn't matter if you refuse." Allen smiled. "Sir, don't think about it. Please tell me your mission." "Sparrow is honored to serve you," Jack Sparrow said without hesitation. "Okay, since you are so sincere, I agree." Allen shrugged and muttered, "What a pity. I still want to try other punishments. Such good experimental materials are not easy to find." Jack Sparrow, who was standing next to him, felt a chill all over his body. He immediately looked straight ahead and bravely served. "Okay, let's go out first. The smell here is really bad." Allen looked at the cautious Jack Sparrow with a smile in his eyes. He snapped his fingers and a flash of inspiration flashed. Magic tricks were released, and the shackles on Jack's body fell to the ground with a clang. Jack Sparrow's eyes tightened, and his heart became more cautious. His expression was more respectful, and he didn't dare to make Allen unhappy at all. "Okay, let's go. Let's leave here first." Allen walked out without paying attention to Jack Sparrow's little thoughts. With a flick of his finger, a flash of inspiration flashed, and illusion instantly enveloped the entire prison. The door of the cell opened directly, and Jack followed him out. The road was smooth and unobstructed, and both the prisoners and the jailers seemed to have not seen the two. Following Allen closely, the two walked out of the prison one after the other. At the prison gate, looking at the gate behind him, Jack Sparrow twisted his butt with a smug look on his face, and then quickly followed Allen's footsteps. A carriage appeared in front of them, and the two got on the carriage directly. The two horses snorted without anyone directing them, and went directly to the manor on the hillside. Jack had become numb to the abnormal behavior along the way. What he experienced tonight would take him a long time to digest. Chapter 261, Undead Pirates. Just after Allen returned to the manor, it was already late at night. A dark shadow suddenly appeared on the calm sea. The shadow moved quickly and quickly approached the royal port. A gust of wind blew, the dark clouds dispersed, and under the bright moonlight, an armed merchant ship was clearly visible. There were many figures on the ship, and as the moonlight shone, they turned into skeletons one by one. These skeletons skillfully controlled the ship, and soon the port in the distance was looming. The thick fog gradually rose, and the moonlight was blocked. Then, under the moonlight, the ship quietly approached the port. This ship was the Black Pearl, which was controlled by the undead captain, Barbossa. This group of undead pirates has been roaming the Caribbean for 10 years, and has been looting crazily for 10 years. One by one, the pirates became immortal, because of the curse. They could not feel pain, were not afraid of death, and would not be injured. This group of undead pirates has become a nightmare covering the Caribbean. This is a group of living dead. Only moonlight can make them visible. Because of greed, they spent the cursed Aztec gold coins, and became living dead from then on. They can't feel the sun, sea breeze, pain, or happiness. When they are thirsty, they can't drink any liquid. When they are hungry, they can't eat any food. They have a huge amount of wealth obtained from robbery, but it is useless. They have to endure hunger and thirst with gold and jewelry in their arms. Such a punishment is worse than death. Barbossa, who fell into madness, and his crew began to look for a solution, which is to find those Aztec gold coins, put the gold coins back to the temple and offer blood sacrifice to lift the curse. After 10 years of crazy searching, Barbossa and his crew collected 881 Aztec gold coins. There is only one left now, and he can clearly feel this one. It is there, in the port not far ahead. No one can stop us. Gold coins. We want gold coins. As the feeling became clearer and clearer, the eyes of this group of living dead were full of spirit. Boom. 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 Flames shot up into the sky at the port, followed by a series of rapid bells. The British soldiers on the fort hurriedly loaded ammunition and fired back. Teams of red shrimp soldiers rushed out with guns, formed an array, and fired into the distance, with puffs of smoke rising. Lead bullets whizzed through the air. Bang, bang. The entire wall soon became shaky and then collapsed. Teams of red shrimp soldiers stood at the port to block the pirates, but they were facing a group of undead who would not die. The pirates who rushed up with muskets were fearless and did not dodge at all. They killed the red shrimp soldiers like a tiger into a flock of sheep. The port was engulfed in flames. Norrington, who was still proud during the day, had a sullen face. He commanded teams of red shrimp soldiers to beat the pirates down, but his efforts against these undead were doomed to be in vain. Teams of pirates followed the gold coins they sensed and rushed to the governor's mansion. The soldiers who tried to stop them were torn to pieces. Seeing this situation, other pirates hiding in the royal port took advantage of the situation and smashed shops to rob property. Some ruffians also joined the feast. In order to cover up their crimes, this group of people started to set fires. The riots continued to expand, and the night concealed their hideous faces. House after house was smashed and searched, dragging a large number of valuables, and there were casualties everywhere. Cries and shouts resounded throughout the royal port. Allen stood on the balcony and quietly watched the flames rising from the port below the mountain. He did not seem to be ready to take action. Whether these people lived or died had nothing to do with Allen. After all, they were all foreigners. Although the number of pirates was small, they were all immortal and were not afraid of these British soldiers. Today, the Empire, which had just become the Overlord not long ago, was severely slapped by these pirates. Master, master. Stuart rushed in with a horrified look. He was holding a flintlock rifle and a rapier on his waist. He walked a few steps to Allen and said quickly, Master, a group of pirates looted the royal port. For your safety, please go to the shelter in the back mountain to hide. Stuart, don't worry, the pirates are not targeting us, and they can't get up the mountain. Allen waved his hand and said indifferently. Jack Sparrow on the side ate buttered bread calmly, not worried about the chaos in the port at all. Jack, those people down there are your old acquaintances. Why don't you go over and say hello to them? Allen looked at Jack, who was eating voraciously, and said, your black pearl is down there. Dear Sir Allen, I'm here to serve you now. If you need me, I will go and discuss with them and send you the ship. After swallowing the food, Captain Jack said righteously, but his eyes were not sincere at all. Allen pouted and smiled, feeling that he was still the Captain Jack who was always talking nonsense. A fire dragon made of torches at the bottom of the mountain began to run towards the top of the mountain. They shouted and screamed, and noisy sounds came, wanting to rob the manor on the mountain. Stuart, the butler next to him, changed his face and was about to pull Allen away. But he was stopped by Allen's group as soon as he moved. Don't worry, just watch it with peace of mind. He patted the old butler comfortingly. The fire dragon stopped moving just as it approached the middle of the mountain. The fire dragon quickly dispersed and became sparse, and then the torches began to go out one by one, and soon the whole fire dragon disappeared without a trace. If you look closely, you will find that there are many beautiful flowers here, with bright colors, and there are fist-sized fruits in the flowers, which are the piranha plants that Allen has found. Allen has cast a maze on this road. Without Allen's permission, people who come here will fall into the maze and then be eaten by the piranha plants hidden on the hillside. The undead bandits are now busy looking for the Aztec gold coin, but they did not come here. The fire in the port burned all night, and as the red light appeared in the east, the pirates who had been raging all night began to evacuate. Seeing the pirates leave, Allen also started to act. Chapter 262, Witchcraft Ship, 2-in-1. Okay, we're leaving too, Allen said calmly as he watched the Black Pearl begin to leave the port. Leave? Do we have a boat? Jack Sparrow asked in confusion. Allen smiled slightly and turned to walk out of the manor. Jack Sparrow quickly followed. Allen did not go to the port, but headed for the back mountain. Jack Sparrow wanted to escape several times along the way, but as soon as he thought of Allen's smiling face, he immediately shuddered. He hesitated for several times, but did not take action. Okay, this is it. Just as Jack Sparrow was struggling in his heart, Allen had already stood on the edge of a cliff. The cold sea breeze blew, bringing a hint of sea smell, and the morning sun in the distance made the sky and the sea red. Jack Sparrow stood behind him and looked around. There was only the sea besides the cliff, and there was no shadow of a ship. Where is the ship? Jack Sparrow asked in confusion. Isn't it there? Allen raised his cane and pointed to the sea under the cliff. Jack Sparrow looked down and saw nothing but seawater. Just as he was puzzled, a huge black shadow emerged in the sea. Soon the shadow grew bigger and bigger, as if a deep sea monster was about to appear. Splash, splash. Dozens of tons of seawater were lifted up by the behemoth, and the waves splashed. Countless marine creatures jumped out. As the seawater flowed away, a majestic and beautiful sailing warship appeared on the sea. Is this witchcraft? Looking at the scene in front of him, although he had already guessed Allen's identity, he was also shocked at this moment. Allen ignored Jack Sparrow's surprised face, looked at the Red Dragon Lord, and then waved his hand, and threw Jack Sparrow, who was still in a daze, directly off the cliff. Jack Sparrow felt his body lean, and then flew into the air. Just as he was about to exclaim, he was tied up by several snakes the next moment. Looking carefully, it turned out to be a cable as thick as an arm. A flash of inspiration passed by, and the next moment Allen was already on the boat. Set sail. With Allen's order, the huge Red Dragon Lord began to move. The sails rose automatically, countless cables were instantly retracted, and the steering wheel began to turn. As the sails swelled, the ship quickly left the harbor and entered the ocean. On the vast, boundless, blue, and magnificent sea, there were no clouds in the sky. Seagulls were flying in the distance, and the seawater hit the bows and splashed several meters high. Allen lay leisurely on the deck to bask in the sun. A parasol blocked the strong sunlight on the sea, and the sea breeze was comfortable and cozy. He picked up a cup of specialized black tea and took a deep sip, feeling refreshed. Allen directly regarded this treasure hunt as a vacation trip, and Captain Jack was in the cockpit with his compass to command the direction. He was extremely satisfied with this Red Dragon Lord. The whole ship could be freely operated without a sailor, and the response was fast and accurate. The whole ship was clean, tidy, comfortable, and fast. There was no bumping feeling like other ships. It felt like it was on flat ground. If you wanted to do something, you just needed to give an order, and the ubiquitous cables would do it soon. It could be said that this was the easiest voyage since he became a captain. Looking at the powerful wizard on the deck, the daring Captain Jack was also filled with awe. "Good afternoon, dear Captain." Jack Sparrow walked to Allen and greeted him in his unique, exaggerated and unreliable tone. Allen smiled slightly, nodded slightly, and motioned him to sit down. After Jack sat down, he took the iced wine and poured himself a glass without any hesitation, and then drank it in one gulp. "The wine is good. I didn't expect you to have such good wine here, but I still prefer rum. Have you tried rum?" "That's..." Jack smiled slightly and showed a big gold tooth. Allen looked at him without knowing whether to say it. Jack, who had been talking endlessly, gradually stopped, and the atmosphere was a little awkward. "Sparrow, tell me, what do you want?" Allen said when Jack stopped chattering. "It's Captain Jack Sparrow, Your Excellency." Jack emphasized with a raised finger. "Oh, haha, Captain?" Allen looked at Jack Sparrow with a smile. "Well, let's call it Captain." Allen nodded indifferently, and then said, "So what do you want, Sparrow?" Jack raised his finger, adjusted his hat and clothes, bowed and said, "I don't know what Your Excellency Allen needs me to do. I need you to help me find something." Allen took a sip of the black tea and said, "Oh, I don't know what Your Excellency is looking for. And I'm just a pirate. Why are you looking for me?" "Sparrow, don't belittle yourself. You are not an ordinary pirate, but a pirate king. Similarly, you are a lucky man favored by fate, not an ordinary person." Allen blinked at Jack and looked at him with a smile. "Well, then I should know what you want me to find, right?" Jack picked up a red apple, rubbed it on his clothes, and took a big bite. "I want to find Atlantis and the trident of Poseidon, the legendary god of the sea," Allen said with a smile. "Atlantis? Poseidon?" Sparrow looked at Allen in surprise. "Yes." He nodded gently. "Damn it, Atlantis and Poseidon are all legends. They don't exist in this world at all. Where do you want me to find them?" Hearing Allen's words, Jack Sparrow was instantly furious, jumped up, and said angrily, "Sparrow, how are you sure they don't exist?" Allen poured a glass of wine leisurely and took a sip. "Do you need to be sure? This is just a legend." "A legend? Legend? Is it really a legend?" "Sparrow, that Shiadoma, you must know who she is, right? And the island with the Fountain of Youth, that you have visited those cursed gold coins. Do you need me to remind you of the others? Allen said lightly. By the way, there is one more thing you don't know, that Salazar, who was tricked by you and rushed into the Devil's Triangle, is still alive, and that octopus head is looking for you to collect the debt. Are these all legends? How do you know everything? Jack was shocked. Many of these things were secrets, and only a few people knew about them, and some of them were even known only to him. Now that Allen easily said them out, at this moment he felt like he was stripped naked and exposed to the sun. I don't know much about your affairs, but I definitely know a lot. Allen smiled slightly. Okay, dear Captain. Jack calmed down and accepted it, then continued. Then you should be very clear about the troubles I have, and you still decide to hire me. Trouble? Are you talking about the octopus head named Davy Jones? A ghost captain bound by the sea? Don't worry about it. If he doesn't come, it's fine. If he shows up, I'm very interested in his octopus pet. Allen waved his hand and didn't care at all. Ah, that's great. Jack stood up exaggeratedly, then took off his hat and bowed. Dear Captain, Jack Sparrow is willing to serve you. But, I think we need to talk about the reward. Your reward is that I help you deal with Davy Jones. Allen glanced at him and said, no, this is just one of them. I found more than one thing for you. Obviously this is not enough. Jack waved his arms exaggeratedly a few times and said, not enough, then count my rescue of you from prison as your reward, which has been paid in advance. Allen was in a good mood at this time, watching Captain Jack's performance with a smile on his face. Well, I can come out without you? Jack Sparrow said stubbornly with his eyes wandering. Haha. Allen stared at him for a long time, then said, okay, then tell me, what kind of reward do you want? Money? Beauty? Or a long life? Or do you want to be the king? Allen kept saying tempting conditions, and Jack Sparrow's eyes became brighter and brighter. Can you do all of these? Of course. However, your choices are limited. Please consider carefully. Allen looked at him and said, then, is this boat okay? Jack said with a cheer. This boat, of course. Allen looked at Jack Sparrow with a happy face and said in a deep tone, you need to make enough efforts to change this boat. If what I find in the end does not satisfy me, the consequences will not be as simple as turning into an undead skeleton. Please rest assured, Mr. Wizard. I will definitely satisfy you. Jack Sparrow promised confidently. But what is the punishment you are talking about? Don't worry, it's a very simple punishment. Allen looked at him with amusement. For example, turning into a duck. Do you want to try it? No. I think being a human is good. Jack shook his head repeatedly when he heard Allen's words. Then work hard. After saying that, he waved his hand at him. Jack Sparrow got the answer, tactfully bowed to Allen and left excitedly. With Allen's guarantee, Jack Sparrow was full of longing for the future. The powerful magic ship, Barbossa, and the octopus head got Allen's guarantee that these would no longer threaten him. From this moment on, he was no longer afraid of the octopus head. The Flying Dutchman with the octopus head was just a broken sampan compared to the Red Dragon Lord. The appearance of the ship looked tattered, covered with barnacles and seaweed, slippery, and emitting a fishy smell all the time. Moreover, it could only dock once every 10 years, and everyone on the ship would become undead and be imprisoned on the ship. Most importantly, he still owed the ghost Captain Davy Jones 100 years of service. He didn't want to become an octopus head and stay at the bottom of the sea with a group of seafood for 10 years. I used to worry about being found by that deep sea demon, but now I'm on this ship, and that octopus head will never catch up with me in this life. Jack Sparrow now looks relaxed and comfortable, without any feeling of being restricted or forced. There are several magical ships in this ocean, the most powerful of which is Davy Jones. The Flying Dutchman, blessed, or cursed, by the goddess of the sea, has been cruising in this sea for hundreds of years. During this period, countless merchant ships, warships, and pirate ships were pulled into the abyss by it. It is the king of the sea. The second is a legendary Spanish Navy Salazar and his Silent Mary, but he was somewhat tragically mocked by the fledgling Jack Sparrow, and designed to rush into the Devil's Triangle, hid a reef and exploded, and then was cursed, and imprisoned in the Devil's Triangle, and could not leave. This battle made Jack Sparrow's status The young Jack Sparrow was supported by the pirates and became one of the 9 pirate kings. The third one is the Black Pearl, commanded by Barbossa. He was originally the first mate of the Black Pearl. He entangled with other pirates, overthrew the captain Jack Sparrow, exiled him to a deserted island, and then stole the Black Pearl. Later, in order to gain eternal life, he went to find Aztec gold coins, but was cursed by the gold coins and turned into undead. From then on, he would not be injured or die, and he could not eat anything or drink any water. Cursed, they plundered crazily in the past 10 years. The fourth one is Blackbird and his Bloody Mary. This ship is a magic ship transformed by Edward Blackbird using a lot of black magic. His crew members were all transformed by him using black magic and have strong combat effectiveness. There are some other powerful ships to a greater or lesser extent, but they are far inferior to these ones. Alu's target this time is the god behind the Aztec gold coin. He wants to see the current state of the indigenous god. Those pirates squandered the gold coins offered to him, but they were cursed. The method to remove the curse is also simple. For these pagans who blasphemed the gods, this punishment is not severe. As far as Allen knows, many indigenous gods are cruel, bloody, and arrogant. It's rare to meet a good-tempered one. You can get a lot of information by contacting him. At this time, on the Black Pearl, Barbossa rushed to the Island of the Dead after looting the royal port and kidnapping Elizabeth Swan. In the past 10 years, they have intercepted countless treasures, but they can't enjoy them. This torture is almost crazy. Now that the last gold coin is in hand, they can't wait to remove the curse and then enjoy the looted treasures. The Island of the Dead. This deserted island is the base of Barbossa's group of undead pirates. After each looting, they will pile up gold, silver and jewelry on this island. The island was a volcanic island, but the volcano had long been extinguished. The island was desolate and there was no living thing. There were caves crisscrossing the island. People who were not familiar with the situation might fall into the spider web-like caves and eventually starve to death. Deep in the caves were piles of gold, silver and jewelry. After 2 days of full speed sailing, the Black Pearl finally slowly approached the shore. Chapter 263 Curse. In front of Allen was a circular water curtain. This spell was called Water Mirror, but Allen preferred to call it Circle Light. This was a spell he created by combining Scouting, Water Mirror, Scouting Eye, Secret Mark, and Stealth. The effect of this spell was that one could observe one or several places at will. The picture would be presented to Allen in 360 degrees without dead angles. At this time, he saw the Island of the Dead. Barbossa led many pirates and brought Elizabeth back here. There was also an interface next to it, which showed the Black Pearl. At the stern of the Black Pearl, the little blacksmith Will was hanging on the ship with a rope. This time, there was no Jack Sparrow to steal the ship with him. He secretly followed to the Island of the Dead with a rope. Barbossa and his undead pirates gathered together, ready to welcome the moment when the curse was lifted. The surrounding caves were piled with mountains of gold and jewelry. Countless gold and silver ornaments, pearls, gems, and gold coins and utensils were thrown everywhere at random. Looking up, there was dazzling golden light in sight. The surrounding water flashed with golden light from time to time, and a large number of gold coins were scattered at random on the bottom of the water. 10 years of crazy looting has brought the wealth here to an astonishing level. The pirates looked at Barbossa excitedly, watching him move the box of Aztec gold coins out of the cave. Seeing Barbossa count the gold coins again, and then put the last Aztec gold coin in, the pirates cheered and reveled for the curse that was about to be revealed. I want to play with women. I'm dying of suffocation. I don't know how I survived 10 years. I want to find 10, no, 100 women with so much gold. Come on, 100. Your little earthworm can't handle even one woman. FXXK, Hank, wait. I'm going to fuck you after the curse is lifted, okay? Shut up, or I'll plug your assholes with a stick. Barbossa saw that several of his men were about to fight, and shouted loudly, if you interfere with the ceremony, I will twist off your heads and use them as chamber pots. Several pirates who were shouting immediately shut up, but they just glared at each other fiercely, not daring to make any more sounds. Seeing that the pirates were quiet, Barbossa grabbed Elizabeth directly, took out a dagger in one hand, and scratched her palm. The bright red blood quickly flowed out, and the blood dripped onto the gold coins. All the pirates stared at the box full of gold coins in front of them without blinking. However, the result made Barbossa very angry. Nothing happened. Elizabeth's blood had no effect at all, and the curse was not lifted. The pirates who lost hope shouted loudly in dissatisfaction and blamed each other. Allen used magic to look at the chaotic scene in the cave. The blacksmith will approached quietly, trying to take advantage of the chaos to rescue Elizabeth. He smiled slightly, and a beam of light enveloped Allen and Jack, and the next moment the two appeared in the cave. Ahem. Allen coughed twice softly when he saw the chaotic scene. Hearing the sound, Barbossa looked at Allen. Who are you, and why are you here? Jack Sparrow, you are not dead. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Captain Jack pinched his orchid finger and said cynically while circling around Barbossa. Please note that you should call me Captain. Jack Sparrow emphasized. Captain? Sparrow, you are dreaming. You have been exiled by us and are no longer the captain of the Black Pearl. Barbossa stared at Jack fiercely and said, you thief, betrayer, stole my Black Pearl and threw me on a deserted island. I didn't expect that I would be back now. Jack Sparrow looked at him fearlessly. So what if you are back? You are just a poor guy without a ship now. Haha. Barbossa taunted. The eyes of the surrounding undead pirates flickered. Quiet. Seeing that the two were about to fight, Allen frowned slightly and used the amplification technique to suppress everyone's voices instantly. Who I am and why I'm here are not important. Seeing the attention of the group of undead pirates turn to him, Allen continued, what's important is that I know how to remove your curse. What? You know? Boy, who are you? You dare to come here and talk nonsense? You know? Tell me quickly, or I'll kill you with a knife. The pirates around heard Allen's words and became restless. A pirate rushed up and stretched out his arm to grab Allen's collar. Allen frowned, and a fireball flew out instantly. Boom. An explosion sounded. The pirate was directly knocked away far away, and the flames burned violently on his body. A series of shrill screams came out from the flames, and the figure rolled violently, illuminating the dim cave in the daylight. The pirates around hurriedly retreated and kept a distance from Allen. The fireman rolled and gradually stopped, no longer moving. The flames soon went out, and the pirate had been burned into a pile of ashes. The backs of the pirates who had already lost their senses also felt a chill. Originally, relying on their immortality, these pirates didn't take anyone seriously. This time, they found that their immortality was completely useless. The pirates who were burned to ashes showed no signs of resurrection. When Allen saw these pirates again, he knew that these people were cursed, because their souls were cursed, so the fireball directly burned their souls, and their bodies were just incidental. I hate people pointing their fingers at me. This is very rude. I hate people pointing their knives at me even more. Allen looked around, smiled and said gently, but this smile was like the smile of a devil. The pirates around felt weak in their hearts and dared not move at all. They quickly put away their weapons in their hands, fearing that they would be killed by a fireball. It seems that no one is continuing. Allen looked around, and the pirates avoided his gaze like quails. Then let's continue the previous topic. Allen nodded with satisfaction and continued. I can help you remove the curse. Tell me where you got these Aztec gold coins. Respected wizard, as long as you help us remove the curse, we will tell you everything we know. Barbossa agreed to Allen's request. Okay, I'll remove the curse for you right now. A flash of light flashed across Allen's fingers, and a big hand appeared out of thin air, and then instantly appeared beside the blacksmith will, grabbing the two people who were sneaking to leave here. Spiro, go cut this man's palm and smear his blood on those gold coins. Allen pointed at Will and said, yes, sir. I'm happy to serve you. Jack Sparrow took Will's hand and pinched his fingers and walked through the pirates. All the pirates didn't dare to look at him and made way. He also deliberately walked in front of Barbossa and looked at him with a provocative look. Barbossa pinched his fingers hard, then slowly backed away, and Jack Sparrow walked past him arrogantly. Allen just smiled at Jack Sparrow's little thoughts and didn't take it to heart. Although Jack Sparrow's words and deeds seemed to be out of tune, unreliable, and full of lies, in fact, he was the wisest among these pirates. Although he had bad luck and was always unlucky, he could always turn danger into safety and get out of trouble with his wisdom. If someone else was wandering around like him, the grass on his grave would probably be 3 feet high. Pulling Will to the box full of gold coins, Jack Sparrow directly took out a dagger, then pulled Will's palm, gently scratched it, and the bright red blood dripped onto the gold coins. The pirates around only felt a palpitation passing through, and a gust of cold wind blew, and the pirates around only felt cold all over, feeling that their bodies were hollowed out. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Search. Allen's mental power had spread around early, sensing the surrounding movements at all times. As the blood dripped, Allen clearly sensed a faint force that flashed by. His expression changed slightly, and Allen clearly remembered that breath. Okay, your curse is lifted. Looking at the pirates with joy on their faces, Allen said directly, I want to know where you got these gold coins. Respected wizard, thank you very much for lifting the curse for us. Barbossa said flatteringly with a servile look on his face. Allen glanced at him and motioned him to continue. These Aztec gold coins are said to be gifts given by the Aztecs to the Spanish colonist Hernando Costa, hoping that he would not carry out the massacre. However, Costa accepted the gold, but broke his promise. The greedy Spaniards massacred the Aztecs, and then the gold coins were cursed by the Aztec god. The Spaniards were unable to take the gold coins away in the end, and they were left in the temple. We got them from an indigenous tribe. Aztec temple. Allen frowned slightly. Where is that temple? In Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan. Allen was a little confused because he had never heard of this place. Tenochtitlan was the capital of the Aztec Empire, and it is now renamed Mexico City by the Spanish. Barbossa explained quickly. Mexico. Allen nodded. Where is that tribe? I'm sorry, this tribe has disappeared, Barbossa said embarrassedly. For the Native Americans of this period, these Europeans brought diseases, wars, and death. It only took a short time for a tribe to disappear. Tell me where the tribe was before. Allen did not ask how the tribe disappeared. It was nothing more than that the pirates robbed it, defeated and massacred the tribe, or there were other infectious diseases. On Cozumel Island, located at the junction of the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. Dear wizard, we have told you everything we know. Thank you very much for lifting the curse for us. Barbossa said with a twinkling look in his eyes. Well, our deal is done. Allen nodded and said. Just when the pirates breathed a sigh of relief, a voice came over. But I think you should run away quickly. The British are here. Boom. 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 Just as Allen finished speaking, a burst of cannon fire came from outside. These British were naturally notified by Allen. Allen told Norrington the location here. The Brigadier General, who was eager to take revenge, immediately summoned the Navy to rush to the island of the dead. The pirates didn't care about celebrating and rushed out with their weapons. Allen felt no guilt at all. These pirates and the British were not good people. It was none of his business if they died. With a light wave of the staff in his hand, the mountains of gold and jewels in the cave disappeared quickly. Soon, it became an empty cave. Allen ignored the shocked couple and grabbed Jack Sparrow and disappeared. The next moment, the two appeared on the deck of the Red Dragon Lord. From time to time, there were violent explosions on the sea in the distance. The enemies were extremely jealous when they met. The naval battle between the two sides became fierce from the beginning. I just don't know if the pirates who lost their immortality felt regret. Allen smiled at the sea, waved his hand, and the ship set sail directly. After getting the exact location, Allen did not stop and asked Jack Sparrow to guide the direction. Then the Red Dragon Lord drove straight to Mexico City at full speed. The extremely high speed of the Red Dragon King created several meters of water on the sea surface, and it rushed to the northwest in a domineering manner. It encountered many merchant ships along the way, and everyone looked at the high-speed sailing ship with horror. Those merchant ships had fallen into despair when they saw the Red Dragon King, with its extremely high speed, huge hull, and huge horns that were terrifying at first glance. These merchants thought they had encountered pirates, but the Red Dragon King passed by him quickly, and the waves splashed all over the sailors and merchants. Seeing the sailing ship disappearing in the distance quickly, these frightened merchants sat down on the deck. The Red Dragon King sailed at a speed of more than 40 nautical miles, crossing the Caribbean Sea, passing Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, passing by Cuba, and heading north into the Gulf of Mexico. Finally, it arrived at the east coast of Mexico in later generations. After reaching the coast, Allen took Jack Sparrow directly ashore, and then headed west under the guidance of the compass. This place was conquered by the Spanish in the 16th century. The Spanish established a large number of plantations here, and then transported a large number of black slaves from Africa for labor. The environment here is still very primitive. There are a large number of wild animals in the wild, and there are also a large number of tropical rainforests. This place used to belong to the Aztec Empire, but this empire has disappeared with the invasion of the Spaniards, and even the indigenous people have died in large numbers. The conquerors of the old world brought many viruses, including influenza, cholera, smallpox, etc., and these indigenous people who had never experienced these diseases had no resistance. A large number of indigenous people were killed by these diseases, and sometimes even one tribe after another died. The humid rainforest gave birth to a lush rainforest, and many indigenous people lived in the dense rainforest. Allen found several abandoned pyramids, but there was nothing he wanted in them. It took a day for Allen and Jack Sparrow to come to Mexico City, a huge city built on the water. The whole city is located in a lake. The city is divided into many areas, each of which is connected by a suspension bridge. However, Mexico City has been occupied by the Spaniards at this time. The previous palaces and temples have been razed to the ground, replaced by churches and European palaces. Allen looked at the Mexico City in front of him. There was no Aztec temple at all, and the indigenous god he wanted to find would not be here. Without staying any longer, the two left here directly. Next, Allen was going to go to Cozumel Island to have a look, although the tribe had disappeared. Set sail again, follow the route you came from, arrive at the junction of the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, and find the Cozumel Island. Allen let the boat dive into the water, and then took Jack into the jungle. The island was not big, and Allen soon found an abandoned temple in a dense jungle. The temple looked dilapidated, and most of the buildings had collapsed. It was covered by lush vegetation in the surrounding rainforest, and only some tall stone pillars stood quietly. Chapter 265 Mermaid. There are many carvings of an eagle holding a snake in its mouth on the temple, which should be the incarnation of this indigenous god. Allen snapped his fingers, and a gust of wind swept, clearing the surrounding vegetation directly, and then he saw the full picture of the temple. The temple is in the shape of a pyramid, but this pyramid is only more than 20 meters high. There is an altar on the top of the tower, and a statue on it. There are a lot of murals around the altar, which have become mottled and unclear at this time. Allen carefully observed these murals. As a god of faith, the murals in the temple usually record a lot of information. These murals depict grand sacrificial activities, stories of gods showing miracles, etc. There are many scenes celebrating the harvest on these murals. This indigenous god may have mastered the field of harvest. Some murals also depict many scenes of men and women making love, which may represent reproduction. There are not many murals. Allen has gained a lot of information about this indigenous god. It has at least 4 priesthoods: harvest, reproduction, hunting, and rain. There is some divine power left in this temple. Allen found that this temple has been abandoned for more than 10 years. Judging from the remaining divine power here, the situation of this god is not good, and it is very likely that he has fallen into a deep sleep. The gods of faith are different from the ancient gods. The ancient gods do not need faith. They are bound by rules and cannot descend. They need faith to exist for a long time. Once the faith decreases, their divine power will weaken, and the god will gradually weaken. If all his believers disappear, then the god will fall into a deep sleep soon, and even fall directly in serious cases. Many gods of faith that were once at their peak have disappeared in the long river of history. Allen turned the temple upside down and found nothing useful. After a long time of tossing, he still couldn't find the entrance to the kingdom of the indigenous god. He had no choice but to leave here. Next, Jack Sparrow took the compass to guide the direction, and the two prepared to go to the island with the Fountain of Youth. The Fountain of Youth has the power to restore youth, but drinking the Fountain of Youth requires 2 holy grails, one of which is added with mermaid tears, and then 2 people drink the Fountain of Youth separately. The person who drinks the cup of the Fountain of Youth without mermaid tears will die, and all his vitality will be superimposed on the other person. And the Fountain of Youth can only be drunk once. It seems that, although the Fountain of Youth can prolong people's lives, it is just an equivalent exchange, and it itself does not have the power to prolong life. The island where the Fountain of Youth is hidden in the depths of the sea. The Red Dragon King is constantly moving towards the deep sea. This is a completely unfamiliar sea area. Although the Great Voyage has begun for 200 years, people are sailing on familiar routes. Few people come to this unfamiliar sea area far away from the route. As the ship splits the waves and moves forward, after entering this sea area, Allen feels that there is a divine power in this sea area. Although it is very weak, it is still scanned by the ship. Thick fog rises on the sea surface, and Allen's mental power travels through the thick fog. The farther he is, the more blurred his perception becomes. After more than 1 kilometer, only a general feeling remains. After tapping the deck gently, the speed of the Red Dragon Lord suddenly slowed down. In this environment, too fast speed can easily cause a reef. Here is filled with the power of the sea god, and Allen had to be cautious. Sparrow, how long will it take to reach the island with the Fountain of Youth you mentioned? Allen stood on the observation deck, and Jack Sparrow stood behind him. He took out the compass, and looked at it, and said, "It's almost there. At our speed, it will take about an hour. There are a group of mermaids living around that island. You need mermaid's tears to drink the Fountain of Youth." Fountain of Youth. I don't need it. The life of a wizard is far beyond your imagination. Don't worry about me plundering your life. Allen saw through Jack's little thoughts and said directly. Jack Sparrow hesitated, since he knew that Allen was going to the Fountain of Youth. There were only 2 people on the ship who arrived at the Fountain of Youth. Once the wizard wanted to drink the Fountain of Youth, he would definitely be the unlucky one. As time passed, the ship gradually approached, and an hour passed in a flash. After traveling a distance, the surrounding fog finally disappeared, and a small island appeared in the distance. After seeing the island, the boat began to slow down slowly. There were reefs scattered all over the sea in the distance. 2s and 3s of mermaids were lying on the reefs, with golden wavy hair, naked upper body, a pair of towering peaks covered by 2 shells, some colorful shells and pearls strung into necklaces, and worn around the neck, and a long fish tail on the lower body, which gently slapped in the water and splashed a lot of water. Each of these mermaids can be called a stunning beauty, a seductive beauty, and people can't take their eyes off them at first sight. A faint singing voice came, like the sound of the sky, which made people intoxicated unconsciously. Allen glanced at Jack Sparrow, and found that he didn't know where to find 2 pieces of rags to plug his ears, and now he was looking at the mermaids with shining eyes. Cunning guy. Allen smiled slightly, not caring about Jack Sparrow's little thoughts. The mermaids around saw the boat coming, and started to seduce. They even sang beautiful songs. Some mermaids even jumped onto the side of the boat, and posed seductively towards Allen. They even removed the 2 shells, and a group of seductive pinks came into view. Allen clearly felt a magical power rippling around him. The seduction spells of these mermaids were not at the level of 1st level spells, and could not have any effect on him. A flash of light flashed in his hand. Group human freeze. The mermaids who were posing around him seemed to have been paused, and they were stiff and unable to move. Group shrinking spell. As the aura faded, the mermaids shrank rapidly. Allen took out a crystal fish tank, and waved his hand gently. More than 20 mermaids flew into it. The fish tank was a shrinking ocean. When a group of mermaids entered, Allen lifted the immobilization spell. The terrified mermaids tossed in the fish tank, and tried to get out, but everything was in vain. What are you going to do with these mermaids? Sparrow took off the rags that were stuffed in his ears and pointed at the mermaids in the fish tank. I plan to dissect this magical species. It is said that mermaids have the blood of the sea god. Allen explained casually, and then put away the fish tank, not caring about Sparrow's strange look at all. You are going to dissect such beautiful mermaids? Yes. Do you have any questions? Allen asked back. No. Chapter 266, Fountain of Youth. Allen took out his staff, and a flash of light flashed. The whole boat quickly shrank to the size of a palm. Then the boat was folded up, and the two boarded the island. The island was extremely beautiful. The island was surrounded by light blue water, white sandy beaches, and many colorful shells. There was an undulating mountain range on the island. Walking across the beach, there was a lush forest with a thick layer of humus. The soil here was extremely fertile, and the trees were tall. Many trees had unknown fruits. A row of tall coconut trees and palm trees grew on the beach. Sparrow, where is the location of the Fountain of Youth? After landing on the island, Allen asked about the location of the spring. Do you see that mountain? Jack Sparrow pointed to the highest mountain deep in the island and said, I found the Fountain of Youth in the cave there. Looking up, the mountain range was surrounded by lush forests. The mountain range was undulating, with the peak in the middle very high and the others less than half as high. Let's go. Allen went straight into the forest. This island was full of divine power. Allen would be disturbed by divine power when casting spells here. Fortunately, the divine power here was not strong, but it was a little troublesome. Dispel the insects. As a spiritual light spread, various poisonous insects hidden around Allen fled. This place is at the equator of the earth. The humid and hot environment breeds a large number of insects. Various poisonous substances emerge in the rainforest environment. As Allen moved forward, various insects hidden around fled. Jack Sparrow had seen more than once that the arm thick, more than 2 feet long, bright red centipedes came out of some dead branches and leaves, and some colorful spiders also escaped from the trees. The dense poisonous substances made his scalp numb. More than an hour later, the two walked out of this primeval forest. What appeared in front of them was a waterfall, and there was a pool under the waterfall. There were some artificial traces around the pool, some mossy gravel, and some broken pools. In the middle of the pool was a statue broken into several pieces. It can be seen that the statue is a mermaid holding a water bottle. The pool is not deep, and there is a layer of white fine sand inside. Through the water, you can clearly see that there are many fish swimming in it. Going around the pool and entering behind the waterfall, a cave appeared in front of you, like a water curtain cave. The cave is very dry, not as humid as imagined. The cave is not dark. The light source emitted from nowhere makes it very bright. Inside the cave is a hall of several hundred square meters, with an altar in the middle. A beam of light shines directly on the altar, and 2 golden cups are placed on it. They are the pair of holy grails. Allen gently picked up the cup. The cup is made of gold, and it is outlined with strange patterns of unknown metal. It looks familiar. A trace of mental power is probed into it, and a strong divine power is sensed by Allen. Chip. Start scanning. Allen ordered in his heart. A light wave invisible to the naked eye scanned back and forth on the quilt, and a translucent screen soon appeared in front of him. Item. Golden cup. Material. Gold. Unknown metal. Inscribed, life drain, variant rune array. Seeing this, Allen remembered that the rune engraved on the cup was life drain, but this cup used divine power, so it was a little different. After collecting the pair of holy chalices, Allen walked to the depths of the hall. There was a stone in the shape of a scale. There was a small pool at each end of the scale, and drops of spring water dripped from the pool. Allen walked forward and looked around. There were rubble all around, some collapsed stone pillars, broken statues, and murals that were mottled and could not be seen. Chip. Scan the surrounding environment. Allen felt that there was something hidden here, but he didn't find anything. After searching back and forth for a long time, he closed his eyes, turned on the chip's scanning ability to the maximum, and scanned the surrounding space bit by bit. Jack Sparrow on the side looked strange, but didn't dare to get close. Time passed by minute. Allen had been standing there for more than 2 hours. The sky outside had darkened, and the light in the cave was slightly dim. Found it. With a shout full of joy, Allen opened his eyes instantly, and his eyes sparkled in the dim cave, which was a manifestation of his overly powerful mental power. With a shout, Allen raised his palm, and a dazzling light appeared in the palm of his hand. With the help of the powerful scanning ability of the chip, Allen finally found a point in this space. After sensing the location, his figure suddenly soared into the air, and the spiritual light in his hand slowly merged into the space. the surrounding space seemed to fold up all of a sudden, and the pool of water instantly rose several feet high. The cave began to tremble violently, and countless strong lights burst out from the middle. The entire mountain seemed to be split in half by a mysterious force. A roar came out, and finally a tall cave appeared out of thin air, squeezing the surrounding space with unparalleled power, and the surrounding space was squeezed into wrinkles. A stream slowly flowed out along the cave. Allen retracted his palm, and his eyes showed a look of as expected. This is a space node. Although it is well hidden, it was eventually found by Allen. He forced this node through, and a passage appeared here. What is hidden here? Jack Sparrow, who had reacted, looked at the cave in trance with a shocked face. Maybe this is the legendary Atlantis. Allen felt the power of the ocean inside, but did not sense the existence of the gods. Congratulations, sir. Jack Sparrow looked inside with curiosity. Let's go in and take a look. Allen chuckled and walked in first. As soon as he entered, Allen found that he was in a water world. This is a large island surrounded by water. Allen and the others were right at the seaside. A road paved with stone slabs and several dozen meters wide stretched into the distance. After walking along this road for about half an hour, two towering stone statues stood on both sides of the road, looking like they were guarding the gate. The stone statues were nearly 100 meters tall, each riding a warhorse and waving a trident in their hands, looking very majestic. A stone tablet stood not far away, with some words carved on it. Allen asked the chip to scan and store it, and then continued to move forward. A city slowly appeared in front of him. The city is circular, low on the outside and high in the middle. A canal divides the city into many parts. There are exquisite statues everywhere in the city, most of which are mighty gods waving tridents surrounded by huge waves. This should be the image of Poseidon, the god of the sea. The city is composed of concentric gardens, which are divided by circular canals. The outer part should be inhabited by civilians, with low houses. The buildings are higher as you go inside. In the center of the city stands a huge lighthouse. Chapter 267 Atlantis. What a spectacular city. This is simply the city of gods. Jack Sparrow sighed, his eyes revealing deep emotion and shock. This is Atlantis, the legendary city of sea gods. Allen exhaled slowly. During this period, the largest cities in Europe were Paris, France and London, England, and their populations were only close to 1 million. And this city alone could accommodate 1 million people in the periphery. Under his feet was a flat and neat stone road, more than 50 meters wide, leading directly to the center of the city. The city was a combination of several concentric circles, and then divided into 10 equal parts. Each layer of concentric rings was separated by a stone wall. Behind the stone wall was a circular moat. The red, white, and black boulders were plated with metals such as copper and tin, forming a beautiful pattern. Each layer was connected by a waterway, and the artificial waterway led directly to the outside sea. There was an arched bridge connecting the waterway. At the outermost edge of the city were various factories such as shipyards and ironworks. These factories were directly connected to the waterway. There were docks inside the factories, and ships could directly enter the factories to load and unload goods. The outer buildings are made of granite, which is polished very smoothly. There are statues everywhere in the city, and the whole city is full of artistic atmosphere. According to legend, it was Poseidon, the god of the sea, who founded the kingdom of Atlantis. On a small island, there was a girl whose parents had both died. Poseidon married the girl, and gave birth to 5 pairs of twins. So Poseidon divided the entire island into 10 districts, which were given to 10 sons to rule, and the eldest son was the supreme ruler. Because the eldest son was called Atlas, also translated as Atlantis, the country was called the Atlantis Kingdom. In the Acropolis in the center of the continent, there are temples dedicated to Poseidon and his wife and a temple dedicated to Poseidon. The interior of this temple is decorated with gold, silver, brass and ivory. The kingdom of Atlantis is very rich and powerful. In addition to the rich products of the island itself, the countries he conquered also paid tribute every year. The 10 kings held absolute power in their own territories and adopted different national organizations. In order to maintain communication, they gathered in the temple of Poseidon every 5 to 6 years to discuss their relationship and ruling power. When the agreement was reached, they cut the throats of the cows fed in the temple of Poseidon and wrote the resolution on the pillars of the Temple of Poseidon with their blood, to increase the authority of the resolution. The city in front of us has intact buildings, and the canals, that extend in all directions, run through the entire city. The canals have not dried up yet, and the water is sparkling and blue. A large number of precious metals are used as decorations in the city. In addition to the statues of Poseidon, the most common ones are bulls and mermaids. The statues are inlaid with a lot of metal. It can be said that the whole city is completely built with gold. Walking on the flat stone road into the city, Allen felt that his eyes were not enough. The houses where the civilians live in the periphery are decorated with gold and silver. There are temples, amphitheaters, arenas, public baths, and a small square in each area. A large amount of gold and silver are used to decorate the buildings, as if gold is just like dirt here. As the two of them continued to go deeper, Allen clearly felt the charm of the city. There were copper street lamps on both sides of the street, flower beds on both sides, and statues at intervals on both sides of the road. The statues were in various shapes and lifelike, and no one was exactly the same. The city's canal system is still working. These canals serve as the main transportation force, and can transport a large amount of materials to any corner of the city. There are copper pillars on both sides of the canal, with traces of ropes tied on them. Marble is the most commonly used building material here, and various artworks decorate the city. Legend has it that Atlantis is rich in gold, silver and gems, and many buildings here have these decorations. The whole city is extremely luxurious, and the scale is amazing. It is eye-opening. The exotic architecture and the wealth of this city are unique. Jack Sparrow tried to pry off the decorative gems more than once, but was stopped by Allen. In this legendary city, any destructive behavior may cause big trouble. Who knows whether the sea god has blessed it here. In the center of the city is a huge temple. In front of the temple is a square. Around the square are statues of various shapes. On the central axis of the temple is a metal column with a lot of text engraved on it. There are countless patterns and reliefs engraved on the copper column, as well as a giant relief of the god Poseidon. In addition, there are some articles written in gorgeous and complex beautiful words. The metal column looks shiny and has a flame-like glow. What metal is this? Jack Sparrow gently stroked the metal column with his hand. Orichalcum. Orichalcum? What is that? An alloy. Orichalcum is a rare mineral unique to Atlantis. It has a golden color and a flame-like glow. In Atlantis, it is more valuable than gold and is usually used to decorate the temple. Allen tapped the orichalcum column lightly and said with some emotion, "This should be the resolution made by the 10 kings." Looking at the temple from here, the temple is built with pure white marble. A dome is supported by stone pillars and decorated with inestimable gold, orichalcum, ivory, silver, and various gems. Under the light, the whole temple exudes a dazzling light, as if it is in the kingdom of gods. The legendary kingdom of gods. Jack stared at the city infatuatedly. The city in front of him has exceeded their imagination. All the beautiful words to praise it are not enough. This is a great city that cannot be described in words. The Temple of Poseidon. This is the largest building in the entire city. The entire temple is nearly 100 meters high and hundreds of meters long and wide. Together with the attached palaces around the temple, the area here is extremely amazing. Standing in front of the temple, a majestic atmosphere came to my face. In front of the temple is a staircase with hundreds of steps. On both sides of the steps, there is a knight holding a shield and a sword, and riding a horse at a distance. Some knights ride war horses, and some ride dolphins. The statue is more than 20 meters high. A lot of gold is used as decoration on the statue. Each statue is different. Some war horses stand up, and some are in a charging posture, looking majestic. Standing here, I feel an invisible pressure. The whole temple is shrouded in a divine power. Those with ulterior motives dare not even make any moves when standing here. The carefree and cynical Jack Sparrow also becomes restrained when he comes here. Chapter 268 Atlantis 2. At the end of the steps, in the center, stood the statue of Poseidon. The statue was nearly 50 meters tall, surrounded by waves, with a crown on its head and a trident held high in one hand. The entire statue was made of gold and mountain copper, and a large number of jewels. Allen clearly sensed that there was a strong divine power on it. Without touching these things, Allen reached out and grabbed Jack, who was reluctant to leave, and walked into the temple. The temple was majestic and solemn. With one step across, Allen seemed to have crossed the long river of time. Solemn and majestic music sounded, and suddenly a large number of blonde and blue-eyed handsome figures appeared around Allen and Jack. Jack subconsciously wanted to draw his sword, but Allen tapped his hand with his staff, and knocked his hand away. "Don't move. This is an illusion." Allen's voice came, and Jack stopped. A large number of people in the temple surrounded a person of obviously higher status. Prayers, chants, sacrifices, and a grand ceremony slowly unfolded in front of Allen and the others. Over tens of thousands of years, countless sacrificial ceremonies have been held here, so that the surrounding divine power has memorized these scenes. Allen's arrival activated this divine power, and these scenes from thousands of years ago appeared before his eyes again. It was not until the end of the sacrificial ceremony that the illusion in front of him slowly dissipated. Allen breathed a long sigh of relief, and his heart was filled with shock. There were large murals on the walls around the temple, including the dome. These long murals told the story of the birth of the world, the appearance of gods, Poseidon's creation of Atlantis, and the reign of the 10 kings. They told the history of Atlantis. If historians saw these, they would definitely be ecstatic, and even the entire history of mankind would be rewritten. The ground is paved with gold, the pillars are made of jade, and the ivory gems are dotted in between. It is extremely luxurious. The statue of Poseidon sits on a golden throne, and various gems are inlaid on it. The statue is about 100 meters tall and majestic, with bright eyes looking into the distance. A divine power permeates the temple. It is obvious that this statue has been blessed by Poseidon. The statue wears a crown, and a sapphire half a person's height on the crown is shining. Allen actually has an urge to worship it. Jack had already knelt on the ground and bowed to the statue as soon as the illusion ended, and he was even reciting the prayer in the illusion just now. Mechanized mind. A bright light flashed in an instant, and an aura of indifference came from Allen. The divine power around him could not shake his will in the slightest. Chip. Scan the surrounding environment. An invisible light wave spread out, and countless digital runes jumped and flashed in Allen's eyes. Found residual, ocean domain. Found residual, ocean divine power. Found space nodes. Found space barriers. Found divine power domain. Found divine power barrier. There's something wrong with so much divine power. Allen's eyes flickered. This place has been idle for at least 6 or 7,000 years. It's unscientific that divine power can maintain so many domain barriers for such a long time. It's not right. It's not magic. Chip. Scan the statue of Poseidon in front of you. After thinking for a while, Allen ordered directly. An invisible light wave quickly enveloped the tall statue of Poseidon in front of him. Soon Allen's eyes lit up. Sure enough, there are other things hidden here. With a flash of inspiration, Allen's figure flew up in the next moment, circling the tall statue of Poseidon for several circles. Allen reached out and groped on the statue for more than 10 minutes. Click. With a crisp sound, a tiny crack appeared on the chest of the statue. Found it. With a slight movement of his fingers, a mechanical door as high as a person appeared on the chest of the statue. Ailu dodged slightly and entered directly. This place is shrouded in divine power, and all kinds of spells have no effect. If there is no chip scanning, it is not easy to find this secret door. It is not as dark as imagined. The surroundings are filled with faint golden light and the light is soft. Going down the stairs, you will soon come to a secret room. The secret room is empty, with only a golden platform and a golden light ball floating on it. The moment Allen saw the light ball, he fell into a sluggish state, with an unbelievable look on his face. Is this the Godhead? Although in a mechanized mental state, the appearance of the Godhead did not shock Allen at all. The Godhead, as a key item for the deification, belongs to the existence that the gods will fight for when they see it. In some legends, ordinary people often get the Godhead and become new gods. Allen doesn't know whether this legend is reliable, but it does become very simple to deify after having the Godhead. The Godhead can be said to be the source of the world, condensed by the rules of the world. If you want to deify, you need to condense your own Godhead. With the domain you control, you can form a Godhead by integrating divine power and world rules. For example, the godhood of Poseidon includes many fields such as sea, water, war, life, storm, marine life, horse, disaster, world destruction, etc. These fields are also divided into primary and secondary. For example, sea, water, storm, marine life, disaster are relatively strong, and there are not many other fields. Many fields are jointly controlled by several gods, and the godhood in front of me is probably the godhood of Poseidon. I just don't know what happened at the beginning. Poseidon actually gave up the godhood. You know what it means for a god to give up the godhood? The god of faith will fall directly from the altar and become a demigod, or even lower, if he loses a godhood. Only the ancient gods have a low dependence on the godhood, but giving up the godhood will also greatly reduce their power. The Poseidon in this world should belong to the ancient gods. Although he is not the oldest batch, he is equally powerful. Poseidon gave up the position of Poseidon and may have left this world. Otherwise, Allen really can't think of a reason why he gave up the godhood. Similarly, the many mysteries of the city and the outside world have also been clarified. This space is very likely not in the material plane, but in the kingdom of Poseidon, the god of the sea. This can also explain why the city has not been damaged much in the past thousands of years, and there is still such a strong divine power around it. Thousands of years after Poseidon left, these divine powers still maintain the operation of the kingdom of God. Allen gently reached out and picked up the godhead. The godhead is between reality and illusion. The mental power gently touched it. Allen only felt that his eyes went black and appeared in a void the next moment, and then turned into a universe in front of him. As time went on, a desolate planet composed of countless dust, meteorites, and asteroids. After the planet appeared, the first ray of sunlight also shone on the planet. P.S. Thank you for the 500 starting coins reward from the silent book friend. The old bookworm gave 100 starting coins, and the wait for a season of flowers to bloom book friend gave 100 starting coins. Chapter 269 Kingdom of God. Magma erupted, earthquakes, meteorites fell, lightning and thunder, a scene of the end of the world, but Allen knew that this was actually the scene before the birth of this world. Then the first drop of water appeared on the planet, gathered by chance, and finally turned into the vast ocean. The ocean began to breed life. With the birth of the first single-celled organisms, the life in the ocean began to gradually increase. Life was born, grew, reproduced, and died in the sea, and the ocean became lively. These scenes flashed in front of Allen's eyes quickly, and finally a bright little ball appeared in front of Allen. He knew that this was the godhood of the sea god. As long as he wanted, he could ask for the recognition of the godhood, and then take the position of the sea god, becoming another powerful and immortal god. He would not need to work hard, but only need to spread faith, and he would continue to become stronger. Allen's face hesitated, his palm raised and slowly approached, and then there was a struggle in his eyes. Just when that hand was about to accept the godhood, Allen's face was blue. He suddenly retracted his palm, turned around, closed his eyes, and breathed heavily. The temptation to become a god is really strong. Allen panted for a while, and his eyes finally returned to calm. After becoming the god of the sea, Allen could no longer leave this world. Moreover, because he was not an ancient god, the restrictions imposed on him by the godhead far exceeded those imposed by the ancient gods. The material plane had many restrictions on the gods. Similarly, the ocean realm was not very compatible with Allen's attributes. If it was the flame realm, Allen might have accepted it. After a struggle, he still resisted the temptation to become a god. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the godhead in front of him. Allen's eyes regained calmness. Although there was still a trace of eagerness, it would not affect him. The godhead still calmly released a faint golden light. Looking at the godhead again, Allen had an idea. After leaving the statue, Allen gently closed the mechanism. With a light click, the statue became tightly closed. Jack Sparrow had become a believer of the god of the sea at this time. The power of the god was indeed powerful. Mind shock. A ray of spiritual light shot out from Allen's hand, and Jack Sparrow, who was praying, was shocked and finally woke up. Mind shielding. A ray of spiritual light enveloped, separating the surrounding strong divine power. What's wrong with me? Rubbed his head, Jack was puzzled by his own behavior. This is the temple of Poseidon. which is full of Poseidon's power. The Poseidon domain formed here will tempt humans who enter here to become his believers. Allen explained casually. What? Jack Sparrow turned around and wanted to get away from the temple. Okay, don't be so careful. You are around me now. I have separated the surrounding divine power and the influence is already very small. Huh. Jack exhaled. Is Poseidon so powerful? Just entering his temple can make people believe in him. This is the basic ability of the gods. Allen waved his hand and said, okay Sparrow, I have something for you to do. Respected wizard, Jack Sparrow is very happy to serve you. Jack pinched his orchid finger and saluted exaggeratedly. Wizard, what do you want? I need to stay here for a while. Allen nodded and said, stay here? Do you want to move the things here? Gold and silver are of limited value to me. If you like, you can take the gold and silver here, as long as you can move it. Allen said indifferently. I need to stay here for a long time. You need to find the trident of Poseidon. I will give you an item. I will know when you find it. Allen took out a crystal ball and said, you can carry this crystal ball with you. If you want to talk to me, just pick it up and concentrate. I will receive the induction and reply to you, or save your life, when you are in danger. Allen handed the crystal ball to Jack and said lightly, thank you very much, Your Excellency the Wizard. Jack's eyes suddenly lit up when he heard that he could save his life in a critical moment. He took the crystal ball, closed his eyes directly, and began to experiment. Because I want to study Atlantis here, the Red Dragon Lord is not used for the time being, so I can give it to you to drive. With this ship blessed with witchcraft, I believe you will give me good news. Allen stared at Jack, his tone full of inexplicable tone. Jack Sparrow's heart trembled, and then he said happily, thank you, Your Excellency the Great Wizard. I will definitely help you find the location of the trident. But in his heart, he said that, after having this ship, he no longer has to worry about Davy Jones. What he wants to do is not my final say. As for the trident, don't think that if you get the Red Dragon Lord, you will be free, and you don't have to complete the tasks I asked you to do. You can't imagine the methods of wizards. Besides, I made the Red Dragon Lord. As long as I want, it will catch you and hand you over to me, no matter where you run. As if seeing through Jack Sparrow's little thoughts, Allen said directly, how is it possible? I will definitely complete the task you asked me to do seriously. Jack Sparrow promised immediately. Only he knew how credible it was. But Allen didn't take it to heart, because he knew that Captain Jack would eventually go to find the trident. The inertia of fate is very strong. With the Red Dragon Lord, Allen also left a secret mark on Jack Sparrow. As long as Allen wanted, he could teleport to his side anytime and anywhere. If you can complete my task and help me find the trident of Poseidon, that ship will be your reward. Allen stared at Jack Sparrow and said, but if you can't complete it, I'm sorry, the consequences will definitely make you remember it for life. Sir Wizard, please rest assured, I'm Jack Sparrow, the legendary pirate king who travels across the Caribbean. I swear on my honor that I will complete your task. Jack Sparrow said righteously. Haha, the reputation of a pirate, this is the funniest joke I have heard this year. Allen looked at Jack with a smile, and then said, but it doesn't matter, okay, this is for you, it will obey your orders. Allen took out a small and exquisite boat the size of a palm, and handed it to Allen. Then he waved his hand and said, okay, find what I'm looking for, as soon as possible. Sir Wizard, then I'll leave. Jack Sparrow pinched an orchid finger, then saluted exaggeratedly, turned around and left here. Now, he can't wait to drive this magic ship and travel across the 7 seas. Chapter 270, Kingdom of God and Demiplane. Atlantis is located in Poseidon's kingdom, which is actually a special demiplane. There are many demiplanes in the multiverse, and its number is almost infinite. There are many types of demiplanes, and the most common one is the unstable demiplane. It is born and disappears quickly. It is born in the source sea, grows, and then breaks, and disappears like a bubble. These demiplanes are very similar to the world of Hengsha in the Buddhist scriptures, like a dream. The most common is the dead demiplane. These demiplanes drift aimlessly in the astral world. There are no creatures, no air, only some rocks. The most valuable is the growth demiplane. These demi-planes can obtain energy from the source sea and the etheric plane, and then grow slowly. This kind of growth demi-plane will stop growing when it grows to a certain extent, and most of them will gradually die. This is how many dead demi-planes come from. Only some lucky demi-planes will grow into material planes. The kingdom of God is equivalent to a growing demi-plane. It can grow by obtaining energy from the source sea, and it can also grow by absorbing divine power. Devout believers in their lifetime will be reborn in the kingdom of God after death. They will not completely die out until they survive in the kingdom of God for hundreds of years, and then integrate into the kingdom of God, and the kingdom of God will also grow slowly. Legendary wizards can also create a new demi-plane by tearing the space and conducting space collapse experiments. These created demi-planes are not large, and it takes hundreds of years to grow. There is only this island left in the kingdom of God in front of us. The rest of the places have dissipated due to energy in the past few thousand years. If it had not been discovered by Allen, it would die when the divine power in this kingdom of God dissipated. Maybe it would take decades or hundreds of years, and an island would appear in this sea area. However, now that it has been discovered by Allen, its fate has changed. Such a kingdom of God that can still grow is rare. When Poseidon gave up his godhood and left, he did not take the kingdom of God with him. It is very likely that the kingdom of God was too large at that time, and his ability was not enough to take it all away. He could only take away the most important essence of the kingdom of God, and the rest would be left here to fend for themselves. Poseidon is one of the strongest gods in the Olympian pantheon. Allen speculated that his strength is likely to be powerful. As a powerful god, the kingdom of God is likely to exceed the area of today's European continent during its heyday. Allen is ready to pack up this demi-plane and take it away. There are many advantages to this. Most of the powerful legendary wizards have their own demi-planes, which are suitable for storing items or as bases. The only problem now is that this kingdom of God is still a bit big, and Allen can't take it away with his current strength. Allen spent 3 months turning this kingdom of God inside and out. The sea area here is not large, only 15 kilometers from the island boundary to the ocean boundary. The island is an irregular circular island with a diameter of 10 kilometers at the widest point. The area of the entire kingdom of God is close to 2,000 square kilometers. This size is not even 1/3 of the size of the demon city in the previous life. Allen has found all the connection points between the kingdom of God and the material plane. If he wants to take it away, he needs to completely separate the two. The origin of the kingdom of God is in the temple of Poseidon, under the huge statue. There is no mark on the origin. The previous mark has been completely worn away over a long period of time. Allen easily left his mark of origin on it. After spending some time to completely control the origin of the kingdom of God, Allen can control the entire kingdom of God. After controlling the origin, he can transform the kingdom of God into what he wants, but the premise is that you have enough energy. The remaining energy of the kingdom of God is not enough to maintain the status quo, and Allen is even less likely to change the landform and play the Minecraft building game. Allen needs to disconnect the connection between the demi-plane and the material plane, and then connect it to himself, so that he can take it away when crossing the world. The pressure that needs to be borne during the crossing process is far greater than that of one person, so the entire demi-plane needs to be reinforced, otherwise the demi-plane is likely to be damaged, and it will be a big trouble to repair it at that time. After knowing all the spatial nodes clearly, Allen began to arrange the rune array in the entire demi-plane. This is a super large rune array, covering an area of nearly 2,000 square kilometers. The materials used are gold, silver, mountain copper and other metals found in Atlantis. Mountain copper is corrosion resistant, light, and hard, which is a good material for making weapons and armor. It also has a good affinity with elemental energy. Although it is not as good as mithril, it is not much worse. The most important thing is that it has a large amount. It must be said that Atlantis is too rich. The amount of gold and silver here has exceeded the treasure of the kingdom under the mountain in the Lord of the Rings world. The amount of mountain copper is also very large, accounting for about 1/10 of this batch of treasures. However, it is far from enough to completely cover this kingdom of God by engraving the rune array with mountain copper alone. Allen asked the chip to conduct tens of millions of simulation experiments and calculations, and formulated a formula. Silver, gold and some other metals are smelted in a certain proportion, and then combined with mountain copper to refine an alloy. This alloy has a slightly weaker affinity for elemental energy than mountain copper, but the amount is 10 or 100 times that of mountain copper. After obtaining the metal used in the rune array, Allen began to dismantle some metal decorations in Atlantis, then built a huge metal furnace in the city, ignited the elemental fire, and began to smelt this alloy. Because this alloy has a golden appearance, Allen called it magic gold. The smelting of magic gold is not difficult. The only limit to its production is the amount of mountain copper. If there is no mountain copper, its elemental affinity is very ordinary. Mountain copper is only found in small quantities in this world, but perhaps it will be found in the world of future travel. As time goes by, a large amount of metal is melted into pieces of metal ingots and neatly stacked. Allen even re-refined 2 steel puppets to operate, using the rune array, to summon the elemental fire for large-scale refining. Because the entire kingdom of God needs to be covered, Allen needs to scan the kingdom of God comprehensively, and then use the chip to perform a lot of calculations and designs. This work is the most critical in the preliminary preparations. Once there is a slight error, the entire rune array cannot play its due effect. When traveling through the world, a little difference in error may cause serious consequences. Allen didn't want to spend so many resources, expend countless thoughts and time, and finally get a ruined demi-plane. If that was the case, it would be more cost effective to wait until he advances to the legendary level and open up a demi-plane himself. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Pirates and the Navy. Just when Allen was racking his brains to pack up the kingdom of God and take it away, Jack Sparrow appeared in the Caribbean again. Captain Jack, who loves freedom, was forced by Allen to find things during this period, and he was almost suffocated. After leaving that sea, he felt that the sea was vast and the sky was white. He manipulated the newly acquired Red Dragon Lord to familiarize himself with its various functions. After a period of operation, although he was mentally prepared, he still underestimated this magic ship. Powerful firepower, flexible maneuverability, unmatched speed, and powerful defense that is desperate. The ship can sail on its own, can be manually operated, and can enter the bottom of the water. This ship is perfect for a captain. Captain Jack, who got the ship, of course, had to try his old business. As a legendary pirate captain, he had not started work for a long time. Now that he has a new ship, he always feels that something is missing if he doesn't try it. So a new pirate became active in the Caribbean. It is said that this pirate is only one person, and he often cruises in the Caribbean. He is elusive, and often appears suddenly near the ship. This pirate often pinches his fingers and his behavior seems to be careless, but if you underestimate him for these reasons, you are wrong. Although this pirate captain is only one person, the ship he drives is extremely powerful. It is a terrifying magic ship. No ship can escape its pursuit at a super fast speed. The powerful magic cannon can destroy any enemy who dares to resist. A large number of ships were intercepted and left safely after paying a high ransom. Some people think that he is only one person, deliberately pretending to surrender, and then when he is close to paying the ransom, they take the opportunity to launch a boarding operation, wanting to kill this pirate and seize the powerful magic ship. As a result, countless cables quickly subdue everyone like a python, and these people have a miserable end. Not only were their goods looted and their ships robbed, but they were also exiled to a deserted island to fend for themselves. For a time, all the ships coming to the Caribbean were trembling with fear, and other pirates active in the Caribbean also began to become active. A large number of ships were hijacked, which had seriously affected the interests of several countries such as the British Empire. Maritime trade had been severely frustrated because of this pirate ship. Unwilling to suffer losses, Britain began to gather the navy to completely destroy this pirate ship. Royal Port. At this time, because the port was looted, Commodore Norrington, a naval commander, did not catch all the pirates and had resigned. The British government sent another naval commander, Lord Beckett. With him came a powerful British naval fleet. The powerful Royal Navy began to eliminate pirates on a large scale. With stronger artillery than pirates, well-trained sailors, and a tacitly coordinated fleet, ordinary pirates were no match for these Royal Navy. After the encirclement and suppression, many pirates in the Caribbean hid again. There were not many pirates who dared to commit crimes against the wind. One of the fierce pirates was named Blackbeard Edward. The ship of Edward Blackbeard was called Queen Anne's Revenge, which was also a magical ship. The ship was originally an armed merchant ship. After being hijacked by Edward Blackbeard, it was renamed Queen Anne's Revenge. After obtaining the ship, he used evil black magic to transform it, and all his men were transformed into undead zombies. After the transformation was completed, he became famous in the first battle. Edward Blackbeard was so crazy that he attacked the British naval port alone and blatantly looted the merchant ships staying in the naval port. As a result, the British Navy was defeated by Blackbeard in the port battle. This battle made him powerful. The fearless undead zombies, the weird black magic, and the Greek fire that could even burn seawater. The warships of this period were all made of wood, and they would soon be fried into ashes, after being ignited by the Greek fire. These killers made him invincible in battle. The powerful Royal Navy suffered repeated setbacks in the confrontation between the two sides. Another pirate is Jack Sparrow, who drove a powerful pirate ship and challenged the British Royal Navy single-handedly. The result was shocking. An entire squadron was surrounded and annihilated by this ship. On that day, the sea area was filled with cannons and smoke. A powerful pirate ship was rampaging in this sea area. Every time it fired a cannon, a ship was severely damaged. The entire sea surface turned into a sea of fire. In this battle, Britain lost a squadron. When the news was passed back to the mainland, the whole of Britain was in an uproar. The British Navy, which suffered heavy losses, was no longer able to control the Caribbean Sea. In order to maintain order, more fleets had to be mobilized. Since the end of the 17th century, the pirates, who had been gradually weakened, became active in an instant. The pirates were clamoring to restore their former glory. The captured spoils and a large amount of gold, silver and jewelry brought rich benefits to the pirates. Countless people who were frustrated, hungry and cold, and wanted to get rich overnight joined the ranks of pirates. It seemed that countless pirates emerged overnight in the entire Atlantic. These pirates not only robbed merchant ships, but also rushed into the colonies of various countries, landed in coastal cities, and began to plunder. These port cities contain a lot of wealth. Every city was plundered, and the losses caused made these countries feel painful. The power of coastal countries in the New World was precarious. The governments of various countries were still watching the jokes of the British, but now they could no longer sit still. Pirates were rampant, and the navy of a single country could not take care of it. Faced with a swarm of pirates, the navy could only retreat. Several maritime powers began to contact frequently. Many maritime powers such as Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, and the Netherlands gathered to discuss. The chaos on the sea has seriously hindered the development of various countries. A single country could not control the out-of-control situation. The formation of a joint fleet came naturally. Countless warships gathered, and the power of the country showed its strong strength at this moment. Although there were many warships, they belonged to different countries and each of them was dirty. It was not easy to fight together, but the situation was in crisis. After urgent consultations, these countries finally completed many issues such as who would command, unified action, coordinated operations, and post-war interest division. The large-scale gathering of the combined fleet could not be concealed at all. The pirates had already sensed the impending storm. The pirates were not stupid. They clearly knew what the consequences would be if so many countries united together. Countless pirates began to connect with each other, and pirates active in other waters also began to gather together. A new decisive battle between the navy and the pirates was about to break out. Countless exchanges of fire made both sides clearly aware of the strength of their respective opponents. Past history has proved that wars between the two always end in the failure of the pirates. Chapter 272 Naval Battle Prelude. The army is not the same as pirates. Pirates advocate freedom. Years of blood on the blade have made the surviving pirates fierce and cunning. However, their military discipline is lax, and they fight on their own. In essence, they are still a mess. Perhaps they are not inferior in gunnery and fighting, but they are not the opponents of the Navy in large-scale coordinated operations. The Navy's logistics and weapons and equipment, which are also supported by national power, are even better than pirates. The advantage of pirates is that they are more familiar with this sea area and their number than the Navy. Knowing their own weaknesses, they are also preparing to hold a new pirate conference. On the other side, somewhere in the Caribbean Sea, in a mysterious bay, there is a dilapidated ship anchored, with thick dirt attached to the hull and muzzle, and the hideous ship shape plus the seafood sailors on the ship. Then, the name of this ship is self-evident. It is the Flying Dutchman. Davy Jones is another legend on the sea. Few people have seen him alive. As a man who has rolled in the sheets with the goddess of the sea, the ghost ship he leads is the nightmare of all sailors on the sea. Now he was going to collect a debt. 13 years ago, he salvaged a ship for a captain. In return, the captain needed to serve on his ship for 100 years and 10 years. However, the agreed time had long arrived, and the captain did not show up. No one dares to deceive me, Jack Sparrow. You will pay for what you did if you fail to fulfill your promise. David Jones's cold words came. Deep in the seabed next to him, a huge black shadow slowly moved with the sea water. The huge body and terrifying tentacles were a deep sea monster that existed in the legend. The news that the pirates gathered together was also known to the United Fleet. As a naval power, they also knew that there were many extraordinary powers in the ocean. They were helpless against the magic ships of the pirates. Seeing that the decisive battle was about to come, this problem must be solved. The East India Company, as an official company established to colonize the New World, also knew many secrets in the ocean. In order to fight against pirates, they decided to use the power of David Jones. They also knew that Jack Sparrow had broken his promise. Davy Jones soon received the news from the East India Company that Jack Sparrow had obtained a powerful magic ship and now convened the 9 pirate kings to hold a pirate meeting. Davy Jones' face changed when he received the news. He instinctively realized that the matter was unusual because he had participated in the previous pirate conferences, but he did not receive the news this time. Davy Jones was not fearless. On the contrary, he had several fatal weaknesses, one of which was his heart, and the other was closely related to the pirate conference. The first pirate conference was held because Davy Jones betrayed the goddess of the sea, told the pirates her weakness, and then designed a trap to seal the goddess of the sea in the body of a human woman. He was very familiar with the goddess of the sea as the culprit who caused her to be sealed by mortals. Once the goddess of the sea got rid of the seal, he would be the first to suffer. What is the best way? It is not to make friends with these pirates. As a former pirate king, the pirate king of the North Sea and the Arctic Ocean, he knows the nature of pirates very well. Cunning, greedy, treachery, conspiracy, these are their advantages. David Jones didn't believe that these pirates would help him seal Poseidon all the time. It's not a good idea to let them have something that can threaten you. You can only feel at ease if you have such a thing in your own hands. As long as you kill a pirate king and destroy the token left by the first generation of pirate kings to seal Poseidon, without this thing, Poseidon can only stay in that human body and can never settle accounts with him again. Caribbean Sea, Royal Port. The Dreadnought, or 3-deck battleship with terrifyingly powerful firepower, has an astonishing number of 88 guns on this newly launched battleship. Among them are 32-pound heavy guns. The total number of warships of other countries around has long exceeded 100. In terms of quantity, the scale of the combined fleet is not inferior to the pirate coalition, and in terms of artillery, it is far more than that. If the two sides go to war, the combined fleet has enough confidence to destroy the pirate coalition in one fell swoop. As the flagship of the combined fleet, the Dreadnought is located in the center of the fleet, and the other battleships of the Royal Navy are guarding on the left and right sides. The commander of this joint fleet is the famous East India Company director, Lord Becket. The spokesperson of the King of England will command the joint fleet to fight the pirates in the final decisive battle. In order to fight against the magic ship among the pirates, he even misled David Jones. Now the confident Lord Beckett is ready to take the initiative to completely eliminate all pirates. The 9 pirate kings gathered to hold a pirate conference, which gave him an opportunity to wipe out all the pirates. After many inquiries from the joint fleet, they have determined that the place where the pirate kings gather is in Shipwreck Bay. As the largest pirate port, Shipwreck Bay has always been a paradise for pirates. Everything here is for the service of pirates, and the pirate guild is here as a thorn in the eyes of other countries. These countries dream of pulling out this pirate port, but the Shipwreck Bay has a strong fortress, many artillery, water sources, and food. These factors are very unfavorable to the attackers, and cannot be broken in a short time. It is wishful thinking to want a long-term siege. A long-term siege requires a lot of supplies. At the same time, a large number of pirates will spontaneously organize to harass the logistics of the navy besieging the port. Therefore, the shipwreck port has not been breached for hundreds of years since it was established. The port exit of the shipwreck port is narrow and cannot accommodate dozens of warships. The port is spacious and needs to face several times or even dozens of times the number of enemies after entering, but this time it is different. All the pirates are gathered inside. There are at least tens of thousands of people in the shipwreck bay. So many pirates are not engaged in production. A mere shipwreck port cannot supply them. They simply cannot hold on for a long time. As for the pirates' harassment tactics, this time there are so many warships with sufficient manpower to protect the logistics. With David Jones to contain those magic ships, other ships are no match for the combined fleet. In the luxuriously decorated war room, the naval commanders of several countries have arrived. On the wall hangs a giant map with a large number of marching routes marked on it. This is the result of the deduction of many naval generals. This is the age of artillery. The era of boarding is over. What matters is the caliber of artillery, quantity, tactics, formation, and excellent gunners and sailors. Pirates will eventually be eliminated by the times. Lord Beckett held a cup of coffee, looking at the huge map in front of him, his eyes fixed on the location of the shipwreck port. PS. 3 updates tomorrow. Chapter 273 Alliance. Bang. The door of the war room was opened roughly, and a fishy smell filled the air. Others in the war room covered their noses. Lord Beckett frowned slightly, but the next moment he showed a warm smile, and walked over to greet him. Dear Mr. David Jones, welcome to the United Fleet. Cutler Beckett. The man had an octopus head, was tall, and was covered with seaweed and various barnacles. He smelled an unpleasant fishy smell. Captain, it's nice to see you here. Beckett welcomed David Jones into the room. Beckett, my appearance symbolizes death. Are you sure you want to see me? David Jones sneered. Someone actually likes death. Really? Don't you think you're in big trouble? Beckett had a calm expression and poured a cup of coffee and handed it to him. Big trouble is coming. Haha, I'm immortal. Who can kill me? David Jones' octopus head tentacles kept waving. Mortals can't kill you, but what if it's Poseidon? Seeing David Jones' arrogant look, Beckett said lightly. Seeing David Jones' body stiffen, Beckett continued, I guess you already know that the pirates have gathered in the shipwreck port. Aren't they gathering in the shipwreck port to fight you? David Jones turned his head and stared at Beckett as if he was ready to kill as long as he got something wrong. Haha, respected captain, do you believe this statement? Then Beckett took out a document and handed it to David Jones. He took the document and glanced at it. Bang, with a muffled sound, David Jones punched the desk hard. Impossible, this is not true. How dare they? They are pirates. There is nothing they dare not do. As long as you are handed over to the Poseidon, they will be forgiven, and the Poseidon will help them win this naval battle. Beckett took a sip of coffee and said calmly. He felt a little timid in his heart. Although the document was real, the content inside was fake news they had forged. If David Jones found out, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, as long as he was pulled onto the warship, the pirates would definitely unseal it in order to survive, and the fake would become real. Who? With a violent gasp, David Jones' octopus tentacles kept waving, and one hand was urgently clenched. Now we have common interests. The British Empire needs to ensure its position at sea, so these pirates who are making trouble must be cleared up, and what you are worried about is also this group of pirates. As long as all these pirates are killed, all problems will be solved. Looking at David Jones' expression, Beckett said slowly, "What do you want to do?" David Jones said slowly after a long silence. Beckett took a bottle of rum from the wine cabinet, twisted it with his fingers, and handed it to David Jones. David Jones reached out to take it, and took a big sip. "Of course we will cooperate," Beckett said seriously. "There is no irreconcilable contradiction between us. On the contrary, we have a common enemy. According to the saying, that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, we should unite." "Friend? Haha, what a warm word." David Jones sneered. "We are not friends." "Okay, since you insist." Beckett shrugged. "But there is one thing you must admit. The pirates in Shipwreck Bay are our common enemies. We need to eliminate pirates and safeguard the interests of the Empire. You also need to eliminate the crisis in its infancy, don't you? Then, you and I need to form an alliance and work together to eliminate them. Then you can sit back and relax and continue to be your deep-seeking and ocean overlord. What you are worried about will never happen, and we will continue to do business. What do you think of this result?" David Jones thought for a long time, then looked up and looked around at the others, raised the bottle and said, "Happy cooperation." The cooperative relationship was established, and the atmosphere eased, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. They all raised their glasses to celebrate. "Beckett, since you have decided to cooperate, then tell me your plan," David Jones asked directly. "We have made full preparations for the battle. The joint fleet has deduced several times. Please come and take a look here." Beckett directly pulled open the curtain next to him, and a giant sea chart appeared in front of him, officially the Caribbean Sea. "Now we are here. The pirates are located in the shipwreck port, which is not far from us, but this is not near the waterway, and the location is hidden. Now according to our sources, there are tens of thousands of pirates gathered here. However, although the pirates have a slight advantage in numbers, most of their ships are modified armed merchant ships, with low defense, far fewer artillery than ours, and very few heavy artillery over 24 pounds. We have an absolute advantage in the number of artillery, but the flagships of the 9 pirate kings among the pirates are not inferior to our main warships, and there are 2 magic ships among them. We hope you can help us defeat these 2 magic ships, and the other pirate joint fleet is confident that we can solve all of them. The pirates will not fight you head on," David Jones said coldly. "Indeed, they are likely to rely on the shipwreck port to fight us. It's a long expedition. It's too far from the mainland, and not close to the colonies. Our supplies can only last for 3 months. If we cut the supply, it will take another month. Once it exceeds this time, we can only retreat." Beckett spread his hands helplessly and continued, "The shipwreck port is easy to defend, but difficult to attack, but it is not without weaknesses. As a seaport, it cannot produce food on a large scale. This time they made a serious mistake. There are too many pirates, tens of thousands. Although most of them carry food, it's good to last for 2 months with so many people. The result of consuming more is being trapped on the island and starving to death." Beckett pointed at the location of the shipwreck port fiercely and said loudly, "We just need to blockade the seaport and force them to come out and fight us. At that time, as long as you can defeat the 2 magic ships, victory will be ours." Beckett said excitedly, "Maybe we don't have to wait that long. When the pirates find that the food is consumed too quickly, they are likely to take the initiative to attack and break through," David Jones said lightly, after taking a sip of wine. "One of those 2 magic ships is driven by Jack Sparrow. I believe you must want to catch him." Beckett raised his glass slightly. Chapter 274 Pirate Conference. Jack Sparrow. "This bastard who didn't keep his promise. This time I will banish him to the end of the world forever." Davy Jones' tone was gloomy, and the surrounding navy could feel the anger in his voice. In order to get the Black Pearl, Jack Sparrow served on the Flying Dutchman for 100 years in exchange for Davy Jones to fish up the Black Pearl that sank to the bottom of the sea. The service time was 10 years later, and now it has exceeded the deadline, and Jack didn't come at all. Obviously, he was going to default on his debt. But this is also understandable. After all, the working environment is too bad. living in the dark seabed for many years. The working environment is dirty and messy, and there is no holiday all year round, no work meals, and living for a long time will be parasitized by a large number of algae barnacles on the body. There is only one vacation every 10 years. There is no girl, no salary, and all kinds of seafood are all around. This is even darker than those black-hearted factories. The mighty combined fleet has set off, and the target is the shipwreck port. David Jones also returned to his own ship, and then ordered his sailors to prepare to set sail. He himself began to summon the Norwegian sea monster. With a strange rhythm, it was transmitted to the depths of the sea. In a certain trench, where the sun does not shine, the dark trench seems to be a bottomless abyss, which makes people feel terrified at a glance. A bright light suddenly appeared in the dark sea water, and then the light slowly grew larger, like a pair of lanterns. The lanterns moved slowly, the dark sea water kept churning, the lantern slowly floated up, and a huge black shadow slowly emerged in the deep sea. At this time, in the shipwreck port, the pirates were arguing violently regarding the division of interests and the problem of the combined fleet. The pirates had different views. The unruly pirates would not obey. Everyone is a pirate king, and they all have their own turf. There is no subordinate relationship among them, and they will not listen to you. Facing the combined fleet, some people wanted to hold on to the death, relying on the strong fortresses and stored food to wear down the combined fleet. Some wanted to take the initiative to attack, have a main battle on the sea, and defeat the navies of various countries in one fell swoop. Some hoped to temporarily avoid the sharp edge, fight with the combined fleet in this sea area, hide and seek, and then sneak attack the main port for supplies. And some people proposed to take advantage of the navies of various countries to directly attack the homeland of each country again. Everyone. The shipwreck port is strong enough, and there is enough food and fresh water. As long as everyone works together, they will never break through the shipwreck bay. Madam King looked around and said loudly, "That's right. The shipwreck bay is so small that no matter how many people they come, they can only attack in batches." Armand agreed loudly. "Really? The navy that came this time brought a 36-pound heavy cannon. One of that thing can blow off your head. The city wall can't withstand their bombardment at all. We must take the initiative to attack, instead of shrinking inside and waiting to die." Another pirate king, Jockard, raised one hand and picked up the flintlock and wiped it slowly. "What's the use of 36-pound guns? Their fleet is not full of heavy guns. When they enter the shipwreck bay, they can't set up a battle formation at all. They can only attack from one side. The firepower of the artillery in the shipwreck port is strong enough to sink these navy ships." "That's right." Many pirates responded. "As long as we don't leave here, can the combined fleet still drive the ship to the land to attack us?" "You are wishful thinking. The navy won't be that stupid," Babas said sarcastically. Don't come out." So many people are crowded in the small shipwreck port, besieged by the navy every day, with heavy casualties, harsh environment, and limited supplies. 1 month is okay, but what about 2 months? It is very likely that only half of us here will be left. Who will be alive? You? Or you? Or you? Jack Sparrow pointed at the many pirate kings and said, "What qualifications do pirate kings who can't even protect their own ships have to stand here?" A voice came over, and the pirates in the hall laughed. "Really?" Jack stared at the pirate king, then pointed at a ship and said, "Is that your broken ship? It can still be driven. I always thought that its fate is the bottom of the sea. As long as you have the ability, you can give it a try." "Okay. That's what I mean. Fire." Jack Sparrow pointed at the ship and shouted. Boom. A thunderous roar sounded instantly, and a flash of fire was seen on a mighty pirate ship, followed by a huge fireball rising into the sky. The shock wave of the explosion swept everything on the ship directly, and countless debris were thrown far away. The rising flames instantly wrapped the entire ship. The sky-high flames burned instantly, and the entire pirate ship fell into the sea of fire. Through the window of the conference room, you can clearly see that this pretty good pirate ship turned into a huge torch in just a few seconds. The pirates who were guarding outside found that the ship was attacked and rushed up with buckets and wooden basins to put out the fire. It's just that the power of the magic flame is far beyond their imagination. The seawater poured on it. It felt like adding fuel to the fire. The orange-red flame quickly burned the ship. After just a few breaths, the ship slowly began to sink. After a while, only some wood was left. Damn it, you destroyed my ship. Don't blame me for this. I warned you. Jack Sparrow shrugged, not taking the pirate captain to heart at all. Buzz and so on. The hull exploded instantly. The pirates couldn't believe that just one shell sank a good pirate ship. This power was beyond their imagination. Everyone looked at Jack Sparrow with awe. Jack, the pirate king of the Caribbean, was not taken seriously by these pirate kings. After all, Jack's strength was too weak. The other pirate kings all had a pirate fleet. As a pirate king, Jack had only one ship to besiege him, and the previous ship was taken away by the sailors. If it weren't for his father, the 9 pirate kings would not pay attention to him at all. Okay, you bunch of wimps, you bastards who are worse than women. I don't expect you to be able to work it out. Others have already attacked you at your doorstep. If you want to wait for death, then wait. After saying that, he put on his hat and left. The pirates looked at each other without saying anything. As Jack Sparrow left, they started arguing. None of the pirates could convince each other, but the combined fleet was getting closer and closer. Knowing the urgency of the situation, the pirates finally reluctantly reached an agreement, relying on the shipwreck port for defense, and sending a few pirates to harass the supply line of the combined fleet. The strength of the pirate kings was not much different from each other, and no one was willing to obey the command of another person. Although the pirates could elect a pirate king, given the selfish character of the pirates, it was impossible to expect them to vote for someone else. Chapter 275 Sneak Attack. Jack left the hall, but did not leave the shipwreck port. Instead, he went directly to the port to relax. He was not worried about the combined fleets. With the Red Dragon Lord, no matter how many ships he faced, there would be food. The next day, thick fog rose from the sea. The shipwreck port, which had been bustling all night, was still asleep. The sea fog was so thick that the vision was severely limited. The visibility of this thick fog did not exceed 100 meters. On the fortress's observation tower, the torches that had been burning all night had gradually gone out, and wisps of smoke dissipated in the air. Several pirates who were a little drunk were gambling. Although several pirates were drunk, there was still one hiding on the observation tower to be on guard. Hurry up, buy and leave. I'm betting big this time. N&D, I don't believe you can win 3 times in a row. I'll follow. I'll follow too. Hoo-ah. Hoo-ah. A faint sound came, which sounded like the sound of paddling. Pete, something's going on. The pirate hiding in the observation tower walked in and shouted. What's going on, Beth? Could it be that the navy of the combined fleet is coming? The pirate who was shaking the dice stopped and said, with such a thick sea fog, aren't they afraid of running aground and sinking? I'm not sure, but there is some movement on the sea. Beth said, come and take a look. Okay, these damn navy. Pete stood up and walked towards the observation tower, cursing. On the observation tower, there was thick sea fog outside. There seems to be a strange sound outside. Do you hear it? Beth listened and gestured to Pete. Hoo-ah. Hoo-ah. No, there is nothing here, except the sound of wind and waves. There is a sound over there. No, there must be. I heard it clearly. I can't be mistaken. Hoo-ah. Pete's expression gradually became solemn. He stretched out his hand to pull out the 2 muskets on his waist, quickly loaded the bullets, then stood up and fired 2 shots in the direction of the sound. Ah! A scream came. Pete's face changed drastically. Ring the alarm. Ring the alarm. Several pirates in the room rushed to a wall clock in a panic, stretched out their hands to grab a rope, and shook it desperately. Ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. A series of bells rang out. Enemy attack. Assemble. Assemble. There are enemies. Get on the wall. The shipwreck port was instantly like a boiling pot of water. Many pirates who were not dressed properly rushed out from their resting places and rushed to the wall. On the sea, small boats loaded with teams of red shrimp soldiers approached quietly. Everyone was silent and only some rustling paddling sounds were heard. Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to the fortress, 2 gunshots were heard suddenly, and an unlucky guy was hit in the arm by a bullet. Damn it, charge. Don't hide anymore. Speed up and charge. A soldier who looked like a commander shouted directly, and then the boats, that were originally moving slowly, accelerated. Hurry up. Go up and destroy these dirty pirates. Victory belongs to the great England. Boom boom boom. The sound of cannons roared. The flames cut through the thick fog and fell into the sea, splashing water several feet high. The enemy could not be seen in the thick fog. These cannons were fired randomly. The cannons on the city walls were fired one after another, and a large amount of seawater splashed, but no ship was hit. Many small boats approached quickly and soon came to the blind spot of the cannons. Stupid, don't fire. Prepare kerosene quickly. Let these bastards try the taste of grilled seafood. As the voice fell, barrels of black grease were poured directly into the sea. The grease slowly spread, and then a torch was thrown from above, and a fire instantly ignited on the sea. The small boats of the combined fleet on the sea were engulfed in the sea, and a large number of navy jumped off the boats and swam to the shore. Although there was still fog, the two sides still launched a fierce gunfire. Stone chips flew on the city wall, and several unlucky guys were hit from time to time. The sea fog filled the narrow vision, and the two sides fell into a blind fight. As time went on, more and more pirates climbed the city wall. The sneak attack of the joint fleet completely failed. Beckett looked forward expressionlessly, turning a deaf ear to the sound of gunfire in the distance. After seeing that there was no chance to climb the city wall, the landing force of the joint fleet began to retreat quickly. As the sun rose, the thick fog on the sea gradually dissipated. In the outer sea of Shipwreck Bay, countless white sails fluttered in the wind, like white clouds, and hundreds of warships were arranged in a staggered manner according to the military formation. Seeing the sea fog dissipate, the huge joint fleet slowly started, adjusted the formation, and pushed out the gun port one by one, pointing to the shipwreck port. There was no negotiation, no persuasion to surrender, only boom boom boom. The roar of the artillery was connected, and the heavy shells crossed the sea for more than 1 kilometer, hitting the city wall heavily, and the rocks flew. Several nearby pirates were hit by stones and their heads were covered with blood. Fight back. Fight back. Quick. Damn it. Stop running around. Fire. Boom boom boom. The cannons on the city wall roared, and water splashed several feet high on the sea in the distance. Several powerful battleships of the combined fleet took the lead, and many cannons kept pouring shells towards the harbor not far away. Using warships to attack the castle was not advantageous, because the ships were on the sea, so the accuracy of the cannons was very poor. Fortunately, the distance was not far, and the ships were not as strong as the fortress. It was very disadvantageous to use warships to attack the heavily defended port. The cannons on the port did not show any weakness and fought back one after another, but the casualties on both sides were very limited. More than 100 warships took turns to attack, leaving no time to rest. At this time, several parts of the fortress had collapsed, and several ships of the combined fleet were also damaged. The bombardment lasted for most of the day, and then slowly weakened. After a day of baptism of artillery fire, the shipwreck port looked even more dilapidated. What a powerful fleet. Looking at the crumbling city wall, Beckett put down the monocular telescope in his hand, and said with emotion, "Hundreds of fleets, followed by 5,000 artillery bombardment, at least tens of thousands of shells poured onto the city wall today. The fact that the city wall was not blown down is already a good thing. My lord, at this rate, it will take at most a week to blow down the city wall here." The adjutant next to him nodded in agreement. "After the fortress is flattened, can these pirates continue to hide inside like turtles?" "Humph," Beckett said with a stern face. "Send our landing force to land from the other side of Shipwreck Bay." "Yes, sir." A flag officer stood on the mast and signed, and flags were raised. Then several frigates were separated from the huge fleet, and then slowly left the fleet formation, and then formed a small formation, and rushed to the other side of Shipwreck Bay, accompanied by some transport ships carrying musketeers. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.